Gravity doesn't exist the way we think it does. We often picture it as a force pulling everything down to the ground. But that's not exactly right. What we call gravity is more like the result of objects curving the space around them. Imagine you have a trampoline. If you place a heavy ball in the middle, it makes the fabric dip. Now, if you roll a smaller ball on the trampoline, it will move toward the heavy one because of the dip. The heavy ball didn't pull the smaller one. Instead, the dip in the fabric caused the small ball to move toward it. This is similar to what happens with planets, stars, and other objects in space. They warp the space around them, and this makes smaller objects move toward them. In space, this curving of space is what causes objects to move in orbits. The Earth moves around the Sun, not because the Sun is pulling it directly, but because the Sun's mass has bent the space around it. So, the Earth is simply following a path in this curved space. This idea was first proposed by Albert Einstein with his theory of general relativity. He showed that mass bends space, and this bending is what we observe as gravity. But in reality, there's no invisible force pulling objects. Instead, objects just follow the curves created by mass. Even though we can measure the effects of gravity, like objects falling or planets orbiting, we now understand it's not a simple force. It's a result of the way space itself behaves. The more massive an object is, the more it bends space. That's why the Earth's gravity is stronger than that of a small rock. It's not pulling objects in the way we once thought. It's just shaping the space around us. Some people believe the moon is an alien spacecraft. They argue that it doesn't look like a natural moon, and its structure might be more complex than we think. The idea is that the moon could be a large object built and placed in orbit around Earth by some advanced civilization. One reason people think this is because the moon's features seem odd. Its surface is covered with craters, but the Earth's surface, despite being older, has far fewer. Some argue that the lack of large craters on Earth and the strange way the moon has stayed in its orbit suggests something unusual. The way the moon's size and distance from Earth perfectly line up to create total solar eclipses also raises questions. Some suggest this alignment could be intentional. Other theories point to the fact that the moon's surface is different from Earth's. It has a layer of dust, known as regolith, that doesn't seem to match the materials found on Earth. Some argue that this dust might have been placed or is the result of some form of alien technology. Additionally, when astronauts visited the moon, they found strange anomalies in the data they collected. For example, the moon rang like a bell when struck, which some find odd for a natural body. Supporters of this theory suggest the moon may be a kind of observation post or base. They claim the moon's movement, which is synchronized with the Earth's rotation, might be designed to keep Earth's inhabitants unaware of its true purpose. Some even think the moon might be hollow or made of materials that don't match typical lunar formations. While mainstream science firmly supports the idea that the moon is a natural satellite formed from Earth after a massive collision, the idea that it's an alien spacecraft sparks curiosity. Whether it's true or not, these theories continue to capture the imagination of those who question the accepted story. Some people believe that Avril Lavigne was replaced by a clone, a theory that gained attention in the early 2000s. According to this idea, the real Avril died or disappeared, and a clone was created to take her place. Fans who support this claim point to differences in her appearance, music style, and behavior over the years. One reason for this theory is the noticeable change in Avril's look. Some fans say she looks different after her early career, pointing out subtle changes in her facial features and her overall style. They believe this is too much of a shift for a person to go through in such a short time. They also mention that her personality and voice seem to have changed. According to them, the clone version of Avril acts and sounds differently from the one fans knew in the early 2000s. The music also plays a role in the theory. Some listeners argue that the style of Avril's songs shifted dramatically after a certain point, suggesting that the clone had a different musical direction or influences. Fans suggest that this change isn't typical for an artist's natural progression and may be evidence of someone else taking over. Another part of the theory centers around a singer named Melissa. Some believe that a woman named Melissa was hired to stand in for Avil when she was struggling with personal issues. Over time, the theory grew to suggest that Melissa is actually the clone. The theory claims that Avil's family and management kept the switch quiet to avoid backlash. Though there is no concrete evidence to support the idea of a clone replacing Avil, the theory continues to circulate among some fans. While most people dismiss it as a conspiracy, it remains an interesting part of pop culture, fueled by the mysteries surrounding the artist's changing career. Some people believe that COVID-19 was planned, and they refer to it as the plandemic. This theory suggests that the virus was intentionally created or released to achieve certain goals. Those who support this idea think the pandemic was used to control the population, manipulate economies, or push for certain political agendas. One argument for this theory is the timing of the outbreak. Some say it was too perfect, coming at a time when many countries were facing economic or political challenges. They point to the way governments reacted to the pandemic, arguing that the strict lockdowns and other measures gave them more control over people's lives. Others claim that the virus was man-made. They say it could have been intentionally engineered in a lab, possibly as a bioweapon. They point to the origin of the virus in China, which has led to speculation about whether it was deliberately released. Some even suggested that the virus might have been created to weaken certain nations or to create fear and chaos, which would make it easier to implement control measures. Supporters of the plandemic theory also argue that the responses to COVID-19, such as the push for vaccines and mass surveillance, could be part of a larger plan. They believe that the pandemic provided an opportunity for governments and organizations to introduce new systems for tracking and monitoring people's movements, health, and behavior. Another point raised by those who believe in this theory is the involvement of major companies and institutions in the pandemic response. They suggest that these organizations profited from the crisis, whether through vaccine sales or by gaining more influence during the lockdowns. They argue that the pandemic allowed certain industries to grow stronger while others suffered. Though mainstream science rejects the idea that COVID-19 was planned, the plandemic theory remains popular among those who feel the pandemic was used for larger, hidden purposes. Some people believe that the Queen of England, along with other members of the royal family, is actually a reptilian alien. This theory is based on the idea that certain powerful figures on Earth are not human at all, but shape-shifting reptilian creatures that secretly control governments and world events. The idea was popularized by David Icke, a British conspiracy theorist who claimed that many prominent political leaders are part of a reptilian race from another planet. According to Icke and others who support this theory, these reptilians can disguise themselves as humans, but they sometimes slip up, revealing their true nature. One of the main arguments used by supporters of this theory is the way certain leaders appear to act or look differently from ordinary people. They point out what they believe to be strange physical features or behavior that they think could suggest a reptilian nature. Some say that when the Queen or other royals make public appearances, their eyes seem to change shape, appearing reptilian or alien-like. Others claim that these leaders' mannerisms, like their cold, controlled demeanor, could be signs of their true reptilian identity. People who believe in this theory also argue that the royal family's long history of power and influence supports the idea that they are not just human. They suggest that reptilians have been in control for centuries, shaping world events and maintaining a hidden agenda to dominate humanity. While the idea that the Queen or other leaders are reptilians is widely dismissed by mainstream society, it remains a part of conspiracy culture. Those who believe it argue that these reptilian elites are trying to keep their true identities hidden, manipulating the world for their own benefit. Birds are not what they seem. What if I told you that every bird you see is actually a surveillance drone? This idea isn't just a joke, It's part of a theory that claims birds are government-operated surveillance machines, used to monitor us at all times. Think about it. Birds are everywhere, and they move in ways that don't always make sense. They can be anywhere, at any time, watching from above. Their movements often seem random, but it's possible they're following a set pattern, just like any technology would. If you've ever seen a bird perched on a wire, maybe it's not just resting. It could be sending data back to a control center. The theory also points out the way birds behave in large groups. When they flock together, they move in perfect coordination, almost like they're following orders. This behavior might be controlled by a central system, ensuring they stay in sync. It's similar to how drones are programmed to follow precise flight paths. Another part of this theory suggests that real birds were replaced long ago. Birds as we know them might have been phased out by technology that looks identical. Today, we see birds that don't need food or rest, and they don't leave waste like natural creatures. The drones take on the appearance of birds, but they don't need the same upkeep. It's easy to brush off this theory as absurd. After all, the idea of birds being surveillance drones sounds extreme. But if you think about it, we live in a world full of technology designed to monitor us. So why wouldn't it extend to the skies? Surveillance drones could be a simple and effective way to keep an eye on people, all while blending in with the natural world. The next time you see a bird, you might wonder if it's really just a bird at all. Mountains are often thought of as large masses of rock and dirt formed by natural forces. But what if they're actually the remains of ancient trees, giant tree stumps that have stood for millions of years? This idea might sound strange, but it raises some interesting points when you consider the structure and appearance of mountains. Imagine a massive tree, centuries old, towering over the landscape. The trunk, thick and strong, is covered with bark and leaves. Over time, the tree is struck by harsh weather, earthquakes, and other forces of nature. The tree falls, breaking into pieces, leaving behind what seems like a large mound or stump. Now, picture this happening on a much larger scale. What's left is not just a stump, but a mountain, a remnant of something that once grew. Mountains often have flat tops or jagged peaks, which could resemble the cut ends of tree trunks. The layers of rock and dirt within mountains might look similar to the growth rings inside a tree, showing the age of the stump. In this theory, the rocks that make up mountains aren't just natural formations. They're parts of old, giant trees that have been shaped by time and weather. If you think about it, trees and mountains both seem to follow similar patterns in nature. Trees reach towards the sky, and mountains rise up from the earth. The roots of trees spread underground, and mountains, too, have deep roots in the earth, anchoring them in place. Over time, trees can grow tall and thick, and mountains, similarly, can grow massive, towering over the land. When we look at mountains, we might be seeing the remnants of trees from an age long gone, their stumps now standing as silent giants. What we call a mountain could, in fact, be the last trace of an ancient forest that once stretched across the land. The idea that Joe Biden is a body double has circulated among some groups, suggesting that the person appearing in public isn't the real president, but someone hired to impersonate him. The theory claims that the body double is used for various reasons, including avoiding risks to the real president's safety or controlling public appearances. Supporters of this theory point out differences in Biden's appearance, such as changes in facial features or body language, as evidence that the person seen in public might not be the same as the one from before. They claim that these inconsistencies can't be chalked up to aging alone. The theory also suggests that high-profile figures, like the president, may rely on doubles to carry out public duties while they focus on other matters, such as sensitive meetings or staying hidden for security reasons. But looking at this theory logically, it's easy to see why many dismiss it as far-fetched. Politicians are known to age, and they often experience health changes that affect how they look and behave. The idea of a body double might seem more likely to those who have doubts or suspicions about a public figure's actions or health. Still, without concrete evidence, it's hard to take the claim seriously. The theory about the Queen of England being a reptilian is another strange claim often shared by conspiracy theorists. It suggests that the Queen, along with other members of the royal family, is actually a reptilian alien disguised as a human. The theory is rooted in the belief that certain powerful individuals are actually extraterrestrial beings controlling the world from behind the scenes. Proponents of this theory often point to the Queen's long reign and her influence in global matters as signs that she may not be human. They claim reptilian aliens have been infiltrating human society for centuries, taking on human form to control world events. This theory is often tied to other conspiracy beliefs about secret elites and hidden powers. Like the idea of Joe Biden being a body double, the reptilian theory about the Queen relies heavily on speculation, with no verifiable proof to back it up. Yet it's another example of how conspiracy theories can gain traction, fueled by doubts about those in power and the desire to explain the unexplainable. The death of Princess Diana has sparked many theories, with some claiming that she was assassinated rather than dying in a tragic accident. The official story says Diana died in a car crash in Paris in 1997. However, certain details have led some to question if her death was planned. One reason people believe she was assassinated is the unusual circumstances surrounding the crash. The car she was in was speeding through a tunnel, but the driver, Henry Paul, had a blood alcohol level over the legal limit. Many argue that a driver under the influence wouldn't have been allowed to operate such an important vehicle, especially with someone like Diana inside. Some believe that this might have been arranged to make the crash look like an accident. Another theory focuses on the fact that Diana was a well-known figure, and her death happened at a time when tensions within the royal family were. There were rumors of Diana's relationship with Dodi Fayed and the speculation that she was pregnant with his child. People have questioned whether Diana's potential marriage to Dodi, a Muslim, would have been accepted by the royal family, leading some to think that her death could have been orchestrated to prevent a scandal. Additionally, the lack of proper medical attention immediately after the crash raised eyebrows. Diana was taken to the hospital, but she passed away from her injuries. Some have suggested that if the situation had been handled differently, she might have survived. The fact that emergency teams were not able to save her has led people to believe that something more sinister was at play. While these theories may not have hard proof, they continue to fuel suspicions about the true cause of Princess Diana's death. The unusual details surrounding the incident have led many to wonder if it was more than just a tragic accident. Time travel is something many people think is a far-off possibility, but some believe it has already been invented. The idea sounds like science fiction, but there are a few arguments and experiments that suggest time travel might be possible today. In the world of physics, time is seen as something that can be bent or warped. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity shows that time isn't fixed. It can stretch and shrink depending on how fast you are moving or how strong gravity is around you. This means that astronauts who travel at very high speeds in space experience time differently than people on Earth. In a way, they are already traveling through time, though just in tiny amounts. The theory goes further. Some scientists believe that if we could reach certain speeds, close to the speed of light, we could travel forward in time. This is something that has been tested on a small scale. For example, atomic clocks have been placed on airplanes and flown around the world. When compared to clocks on the ground, the ones on the planes showed a slight difference in time. This small experiment suggests that time does change, just as Einstein predicted. Another possibility comes from the concept of wormholes. These are theoretical tunnels in space that connect different points in time and space. If a wormhole could be found and stabilized, it might act like a shortcut, allowing someone to travel back and forth through time. While no one has yet found a wormhole, scientists think it's a possibility based on the laws of physics. Though time travel hasn't been fully realized or controlled, these scientific principles show that it could be possible. Time travel might already exist in small, measured ways, and in the future, it could be more than just a concept. The Rothschild family has been linked to global banking for centuries. Some people believe they control the world's financial systems. The family rose to prominence in the 18th century when Herr Amschel Rothschild started a banking business in Frankfurt. Over time, his 5 sons spread across Europe, establishing banks in London, Paris, Vienna, and other major cities. This allowed the Rothschilds to influence finance in many countries, building a vast network of wealth and power. People who support the idea that the Rothschilds control banking point to their influence in key events in history. For example, the Rothschilds were involved in funding wars like the Napoleonic Wars, and governments often turned to them for loans. The family was known for its ability to gather information quickly and make strategic financial moves, giving them an edge in the market. Critics argue that the Rothschilds' financial mania, wealth, and power are the result of their success in banking and business. They point out that many wealthy families, not just the Rothschilds, play important roles in global finance. These families invest in companies, influence markets, and shape policies through their financial power. In this view, the Rothschilds are simply one of many influential players in a complex global system. However, conspiracy theories often claim that the Rothschild family controls all major central banks and manipulates global finance behind the scenes. These theories are fueled by their long history in banking and their significant wealth, but there is little concrete evidence to support the claim that the Rothschilds alone control global banking. The world's financial systems are complicated, with many players and factors involved, making it hard for any one group to hold total control. The Rothschilds are certainly influential in banking, but whether they control the entire global system is a matter of debate. Their history and wealth make them a key part of the conversation about global finance, but they are not the sole force driving it. The idea that Keanu Reeves is immortal has gained popularity among fans and conspiracy theorists alike. The theory suggests that the actor, who has been in the public eye for decades, somehow hasn't aged or changed over the years, leading some to believe he could be something other than human. One reason this theory is so popular is Keanu's youthful appearance. Despite being in his 50s, he looks remarkably similar to how he did in his 20s. While people age at different rates, Reeves' ability to maintain a consistent look over time is unusual, especially in Hollywood, where aging often seems accelerated due to the pressures of fame. Another part of the theory is tied to his roles in movies like The Matrix and John Wick. In these films, Reeves plays characters who defy the limits of human ability. In The Matrix, he is Neo, a hero who can manipulate reality itself. In John Wick, he plays a nearly unstoppable hitman. Fans have drawn connections between his on-screen roles and the idea of him being immortal, as both characters seem to possess qualities that go beyond ordinary human capabilities. Some people also point to Reeves' humble and down-to-earth personality. Unlike many other celebrities, he's known for his kindness and for avoiding the usual trappings of fame, like flashy cars or extravagant parties. This has led some to view him as almost ageless in character, as well as in appearance. It's as if he exists outside of the typical Hollywood cycle of rise and fall. While these theories about immortality are interesting, they remain speculative and unproven. However, they persist because of how Keanu Reeves has managed to maintain such a consistent public image over the years, both in his appearance and his reputation. whether immortal or not, his seemingly timeless presence keeps people intrigued. In 2012, many people believed that the world would end, based on predictions tied to the Mayan calendar. When nothing catastrophic happened, most people moved on. But what if the world did end in 2012, and we're now living in some kind of simulation? This theory suggests that reality as we know it was reset, and we're now in a computer-generated world, unaware of the true nature of our existence. The idea of living in a simulation comes from a theory proposed by philosopher Nick Bostrom. He argued that it's possible that advanced civilizations could create simulations so realistic that the people inside them wouldn't know they're not real. According to this theory, if we are living in a simulation, it might explain why certain things about the world seem strange or illogical. Some people point to glitches in the world as evidence that we might be in a simulation. For example, moments when time seems to skip, or when patterns repeat in ways that feel unnatural. These small occurrences could be seen as bugs in the system, much like glitches in a video game. There's also the idea that some events or changes in the world don't seem to follow the expected path, as though the rules of reality have shifted. Others believe that the end of the world in 2012 was simply the end of the original version of reality. In this view, after 2012, we entered a new, simulated version of the world. This might explain why the world sometimes feels different, as though we're no longer fully connected to the past or to certain events. If reality was reset, it could mean that our memories and experiences are not entirely real, but part of a fabricated experience. While this idea may sound far-fetched, it raises questions about the nature of reality and what we truly know about the world around us. Whether or not we're in a simulation, these thoughts push us to look deeper into the world we live in. There are some who believe that the US government stages mass shootings to push certain agendas. The theory suggests that events like these are not what they appear. Instead, they are orchestrated by powerful groups within the government to manipulate the public or advance political goals. One reason this theory exists is because of the frequency of mass shootings in the US. Some argue that the number of shootings, especially in schools or public places, seems too high to be purely random. They believe that these events may be used to push for stricter gun control laws, even if it means faking such tragedies. People who support this theory point to the way these events are covered by the media. In some cases, the news reports seem to include inconsistent details, or the timeline of the event might not add up. They suggest that the news reports are part of a coordinated effort to create a public reaction that benefits those in power. Additionally, some of these theories claim that certain individuals involved in the shootings might not be real. They suggest that these individuals are actors or government agents who are part of the plan. The lack of clear evidence about the backgrounds of some people involved in shootings or the way they appear in the media has led to the idea that these individuals are placed in the story to make it seem real. While this theory is controversial and lacks solid evidence, it persists due to the strange nature of some mass shootings. People are often left wondering how such horrific events can happen so frequently. And the theory that the government might be behind it is one possible explanation. For the Mandela effect is the idea that large groups of people remember events differently than how they actually happened. Some believe this is proof of alternate timelines, where small changes occur between realities. The term came from people's shared false memory of Nelson Mandela's death in the 1980s. Many remember watching news coverage of his passing, even though it didn't happen until 2013. The Mandela effect extends beyond just one example. People often recall well-known details differently from reality. For instance, many people remember the Monopoly man wearing glasses, but he never has. Another example is the famous Berenstain Bears. Many people swear the name was spelled Berenstein with an E instead of Berenstain with an A. Supporters of the Mandela effect argue that these shared false memories aren't just coincidences. They suggest that these discrepancies could be caused by shifts in timelines or realities. According to this view, these small changes are the result of different versions of the world overlapping or merging. Some believe that these timeline shifts are caused by large-scale events or decisions made in the past. If history is altered even slightly, it could lead to changes in collective memories. People might be unaware of these shifts, but they still experience the effect in the form of mistaken memories. The theory also suggests that technology, like the internet, is helping people to share these false memories, making them seem more common. People connect with each other online, swapping stories about the Mandela effect and reinforcing the idea that something strange is happening with our memories. While there's no scientific proof for alternate timelines, the Mandela effect continues to capture attention. The idea that our memories may not be as reliable as we think has made many question what is real and how timelines might shift. The Nephilim are believed to be a group of giants mentioned in ancient texts, particularly in the Bible. According to these texts, they were the offspring of angels and human women, described as powerful and often terrifying beings. Some people believe that the Nephilim are not just ancient figures, but still walk among us today. Supporters of this idea point to the way certain powerful individuals or groups seem to exert disproportionate control over the world. They argue that some of these people could be descendants of the Nephilim, maintaining traits from their ancient origins, such as strength, size, and influence. These individuals often rise to high positions in government, business, or entertainment, giving them the power to shape major world events. Another part of the theory is that the Nephilim are said to be hidden in plain sight. People who believe this theory claim that these beings blend into modern society, using their power and influence to remain undetected. They suggest that the Nephilim use their advanced knowledge and abilities to manipulate global events, from politics to finance, to maintain their position of power. There are also stories that support the idea of giant-like humans living in secret. Some people claim to have seen unusual individuals who appear much taller or stronger than the average person. These reports, while often unproven, have led some to believe that the Nephilim still exist in small numbers, hidden away from public view. While there is no hard evidence to support the theory that the Nephilim walk among us today, the idea remains compelling to many. It suggests that some of the world's most influential figures might have origins far beyond what we can understand, possibly linked to ancient beings with extraordinary abilities. Some people believe Nikola Tesla was from the future, a man ahead of his time with knowledge and inventions that seemed impossible for his era. Tesla's ideas and technologies were far more advanced than anything else being worked on during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. He invented things like the alternating current AC system, which became the foundation for modern electricity, but many of his ideas were never fully realized. Tesla spoke often about inventions that seemed too advanced for his time. He imagined wireless energy, devices that could transmit power over long distances without wires, and technologies that could change the world. Some people think that Tesla had access to knowledge from a future time, suggesting that he was not just a brilliant inventor, but someone who brought future technology back to the present. One reason this theory is popular is because Tesla made claims about inventions that seemed unbelievable. For example, he once spoke about a machine that could create earthquakes by sending vibrations through the earth. He also hinted at the possibility of communicating with other planets. These ideas were far beyond what was possible in his time. Some believe that Tesla's inventions were actually glimpses of technologies that would only become reality in the future. Another part of the theory comes from Tesla's mysterious behavior. He often worked alone, kept detailed journals, and was known for his eccentric ways. He spoke of visions and flashes of insight that led him to create his inventions, suggesting that he might have been accessing knowledge from a future where these technologies were already in use. Some even believe he might have had access to time travel or advanced technology that allowed him to see into the future. While there is no solid evidence to support the idea that Tesla was from the future, his incredible inventions and strange beliefs continue to spark curiosity about the true nature of his genius. Some people believe that the sinking of the Titanic was not an accident but a deliberate act. The theory suggests that the ship was intentionally sunk to serve a hidden agenda. One version of the theory points to the wealthy individuals who were on board. Some of these men, like John Jacob Astor IV and Isidor Straus, were opposed to the creation of the Federal Reserve. The theory suggests that their deaths could have been arranged to prevent them from influencing financial matters at a time when the U.S. was moving toward the creation of a central banking system. Others suggest that the Titanic sinking was part of a larger conspiracy to profit from the disaster. The ship was insured for a large sum, and some argue that the company that built the Titanic, White Star Line, may have planned the disaster to collect the insurance money. The theory claims that key decisions were made in the days leading up to the voyage, such as reducing the number of lifeboats and ignoring iceberg warnings, to ensure the ship would sink. Some people also point to the similarity between the Titanic and another ship, the Olympic, which was also owned by White Star Line. The theory suggests that the Titanic was actually a replacement for the Olympic, which had been damaged in a previous accident. It is claimed that the Titanic was intentionally sunk to cover up the damage to the Olympic, making it appear as though the Titanic was a brand new ship that had met an unfortunate fate. While there is no direct evidence to prove that the Titanic was deliberately sunk, these theories raise questions about the true cause of the disaster. The mystery surrounding the sinking and the loss of over 1,500 lives continues to fuel speculation about what really happened on that fateful night. Some people believe that the Large Hadron Collider, LHC, a massive particle accelerator at CERN in Switzerland, may have opened a portal to another dimension. The LHC was designed to collide particles at incredibly high speeds to study the fundamental building blocks of matter. But some argue that its experiments, particularly those involving the Higgs boson, could have unintended consequences, like creating rifts in space-time or opening doors to parallel universes. The theory is based on the idea that when the LHC accelerates particles close to the speed of light, it creates extreme conditions similar to those found just after the Big Bang. In these conditions, some scientists believe that the laws of physics could behave in strange and unpredictable ways. The energy produced by these particle collisions could, in theory, create a tear in space-time, potentially opening a portal to another dimension or universe. Some people claim that strange things have already happened since the LHC became operational. They point to odd events or unusual changes in the world that seem to coincide with the collider's experiments. For example, there have been reports of people experiencing shifts in reality, feeling as if they are in a different timeline or dimension. These occurrences are often explained away by coincidence or human perception, but some insist that they are a sign of the collider's effects. Others argue that the LHC could be the cause of more dangerous events, like creating black holes or opening pathways to unknown realms. While scientists working on the collider insist that the risks are minimal, the idea of experimenting with such powerful forces has sparked fear and speculation. The theory that the LHC has opened a portal suggests that the consequences of these experiments could be far beyond what anyone anticipated. The idea that Freemasons rule the world is a claim often discussed but rarely proven. Freemasonry is an old organization that dates back to the 16th century. It started as a group of builders and stonemasons, but over time it grew into a social and charitable organization. Today, it includes members from various backgrounds, many of whom are prominent in business, politics, and culture. People who believe the Freemasons control the world point to the influence some of their members hold in powerful positions. For example, several U.S. presidents, including George Washington and Franklin D. Roosevelt, were Freemasons. This leads some to assume that the group has a hidden agenda or secret power over global events. But being a member doesn't necessarily mean they work together to control things. It's more likely they join the organization for personal reasons, like networking or community service. It's important to separate fact from speculation. The Freemasons do have traditions, rituals, and symbols that some find mysterious. These can give the impression that they are more than just a social group. However, most of what the organization does is focused on personal growth, charity, and fellowship. There's no solid evidence to suggest they are secretly ruling the world. Freemasonry's influence in politics or business is mostly due to its members' individual actions, not a coordinated effort. Many successful people are part of the group, but this doesn't automatically mean the Freemasons as an organization control everything. In fact, the structure of the group is decentralized. Each lodge operates independently, with little to no direction from any central authority. This makes it unlikely that there's a single group pulling the strings behind the scenes. Belief in Freemasons ruling the world often comes from conspiracy theories rather than factual events. These theories tend to exaggerate the group's power and influence based on scattered examples rather than concrete evidence. The idea that Australia is fake is a claim that has circulated in some conspiracy circles. According to this theory, Australia doesn't really exist, and the stories we hear about it are all made up. The theory often suggests that it's part of some grand scheme to mislead the public. Supporters of this theory point to the fact that very few people have visited Australia or know it firsthand. Most of the information we have about the country comes from secondhand sources, like news reports, travel books, or online content. They argue that because we rely on these sources, we can't be sure that Australia exists as it is described. People who believe this theory might also point to the relatively small number of people who live in Australia compared to its large land area. With a population of around 26 million spread across a massive continent, it seems odd that there's so much empty space. However, this is easily explained by the fact that large parts of Australia are desert or sparsely populated due to the climate. Other elements of the theory claim that Australian animals like kangaroos and koalas are fake or that they were artificially created. Yet these animals are real, and plenty of travelers and scientists have seen them in their natural habitats. The fact that animals are found only in certain parts of the world doesn't mean they're made up. Another common argument in favor of the Australia is fake theory is that there's a lack of historical records or that maps are intentionally misleading. However, Australia has a long history both as an Aboriginal land and a British colony, and there is extensive documentation on both. The country has been explored and recorded by countless people, from the Dutch in the 1600s to modern-day tourists. The theory relies heavily on doubt and a lack of direct experience, but the available evidence shows Australia is as real as any other country. The claim that the US never truly abolished slavery comes from a theory based on a legal loophole in the 13th Amendment. This amendment, passed in 1865, is widely known for abolishing slavery. However, the amendment includes a key exception. It allows forced labor as punishment for a crime. The exact wording is, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States. Some people argue that this exception allows slavery to continue in a hidden form. The theory suggests that since the amendment permits forced labor for convicted criminals, the prison system is essentially a modern form of slavery. In this view, the criminal justice system disproportionately targets minorities, leading to a large number of people, especially African Americans, being incarcerated. Once imprisoned, they can be forced to work under conditions similar to slavery. Supporters of this theory often point to prison labor programs, where inmates are made to work for little or no pay. In some cases, they may be tasked with dangerous or unpleasant jobs, much like the labor slaves were once forced to do. The argument is that this system creates a loophole that allows slavery to persist, even though it's disguised as legal punishment. For example, in some states, prisoners work for private companies, producing goods and services that are sold for profit. While they may receive a small stipend, it's far less than what would be considered fair pay for the work. Some people believe this system exploits prisoners in a way that resembles forced labor. Although the 13th Amendment did not end forced labor in all circumstances, it's a stretch to claim that it allows slavery to continue in the same way it did before. The argument is based on a narrow reading of the amendment, but it raises important questions about the ethics and fairness of the criminal justice system. The claim that the Civil War was about aliens is a theory that stretches historical facts. The Civil War, which took place from 1861 to 1865, was fought between the Northern States, Union, and the Southern States, Confederacy, primarily over issues like slavery, states' rights, and economic differences. However, some people argue that extraterrestrial beings played a hidden role in the conflict. This theory suggests that aliens, either directly or indirectly, influenced key events during the war. For example, proponents of the idea may point to strange occurrences, such as unexplained lights in the sky or reports of unusual objects. They claim these sightings were either a form of alien observation or intervention. Some even argue that advanced alien technology was used to sway battles in favor of one side or the other. One argument in favor of this theory is that the rapid technological advancements during the time period, especially in the military, seem suspicious. The development of new weapons, like the ironclad warships, and the use of railroads for transporting troops and supplies were seen by some as too advanced for the time. They suggest that such innovations may have been inspired or guided by extraterrestrial forces, though there is no solid evidence to support this. Another part of the theory ties in with reports from soldiers and civilians about seeing strange objects in the sky. Some claim these sightings were part of a secret alien presence in the United States during the war. While these reports exist, they are often vague or easily explained by natural phenomena, like weather balloons or atmospheric conditions. In the end, the idea that aliens caused or influenced the Civil War is not supported by mainstream history. The causes of the war are well documented and relate to political, economic, and social factors, not extraterrestrial beings. However, this theory continues to capture the imagination of some people, blending history with speculation about otherworldly involvement. The idea that Michael Jackson is in witness protection is a claim with no solid proof, but it's one that has sparked interest over the years. Some people believe that after his death in 2009, Michael Jackson didn't actually die. Instead, they argue that he went into hiding under the Witness Protection Program. This theory suggests that Jackson faked his death to escape from people who might have been after him, whether due to financial reasons, legal trouble, or personal safety. Supporters of this theory often point to what they see as strange circumstances surrounding his death. They question why there were so many details that didn't seem to add up, such as the way his body was handled or the quick cremation after his passing. They argue that the timing of his death was too perfect and fits with the idea of someone trying to escape attention. According to them, witness protection could offer him a way to disappear and live quietly without the public looking for him. Others point to sightings of Jackson after his death. Some claim that they have seen him in public, disguised or in places where he wouldn't normally be. These stories add fuel to the idea that he is still alive and hiding under a new identity. They believe the government helped him enter witness protection to avoid the pressures of fame or to escape certain people who might have posed a threat. However, there is no credible evidence to support these claims. Michael Jackson's death was investigated by medical professionals, and the official cause was cardiac arrest caused by acute drug intoxication. No government or law enforcement agencies have provided any indication that he entered witness protection. The theory remains one of many conspiracy theories surrounding Jackson's life and death, with little to no facts to back it up. The idea that snow is man-made is a theory that has gained attention in some circles. Some people argue that snow, especially in places where it doesn't naturally fall, is artificially created through weather manipulation. This theory suggests that certain technologies, such as cloud seeding, are used to control the weather and make snow appear in areas where it would not normally occur. Cloud seeding is a real process where substances like silver iodide are released into clouds to encourage snow or rain. It is typically used to increase precipitation in drought-stricken areas or to help with ski resorts that need snow. The idea is that these substances serve as nuclei for water droplets, which then freeze and fall as snow. While cloud seeding is a proven technique, it only influences small-scale weather changes and cannot produce snow in places where it would otherwise be impossible. Some supporters of the theory claim that snowfalls in certain regions, particularly during unusual weather patterns, are a result of deliberate manipulation. They argue that the snow appears too perfectly, almost as if it were created in a lab. They also point to the fact that snow sometimes falls in areas where it typically doesn't, like deserts or regions with mild climates, as evidence of human intervention. However, these events are usually the result of natural weather systems, such as shifts in jet streams or temperature changes. Critics of the theory say that snow is a natural weather event that happens when conditions are right. They explain that snow forms when cold air meets moisture in the atmosphere, causing the water to freeze. While humans can influence weather to a small degree, the idea that snow is entirely man-made is not supported by scientific evidence. Snow remains a natural phenomenon, influenced by complex atmospheric conditions. The idea that Jesus had a child with Mary Magdalene is a claim that has gained attention in popular culture, especially after the release of books like the Da Vinci Code. This theory suggests that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were more than just followers or companions, and that they had a romantic relationship which resulted in a child. Some people believe that this child is the key to understanding a hidden part of history that has been kept secret for centuries. Supporters of the theory often point to the lack of detailed information about Mary Magdalene in the Bible. They argue that the Church has deliberately downplayed her role, possibly because of the implication that she and Jesus had a special relationship. Some also refer to the Gospel of Philip, a non-canonical text which mentions Mary Magdalene in a way that could be interpreted as suggesting a close connection with Jesus. This, combined with the idea that history has been altered or hidden by religious authorities, leads some to believe that there is a cover-up regarding their relationship. Others refer to the idea that Jesus and Mary Magdalene's child could have played a significant role in history, possibly being the ancestor of royal bloodlines, including the Merovingian kings in France. This theory suggests that a secret dynasty descended from Jesus has been carefully hidden from the public. However, there is no solid historical evidence to support the claim that Jesus had a child with Mary Magdalene. The Gospels, which are the main sources about Jesus' life, do not mention any romantic relationship between them. The idea is based on speculation, interpretation of non-canonical texts, and a desire to find a hidden or alternate history. While the theory is intriguing to some, it remains largely unsupported by historical facts. The relationship between Jesus and Mary Magdalene, as described in most Christian traditions, was one of spiritual friendship, not romance. The idea that The Matrix is a documentary is a theory that plays with the idea of reality itself. In the 1999 film, humans live in a simulated world controlled by machines, while their real bodies are used as energy sources. Some people believe that the movie is not just fiction, but a reflection of the true nature of our own reality. they argue that the world we experience may not be real, and we are living in a simulation, much like the one shown in the movie. Supporters of this theory often point to the idea that technology is advancing so quickly that creating a fully immersive, believable simulation is becoming possible. Some believe that we may already be inside a simulation, and that what we see and experience every day is simply part of a program designed to control our perceptions of reality. In this view, the movie The Matrix is a form of warning or a glimpse into what could be happening behind the scenes. For example, the theory suggests that things like glitches in the Matrix, those odd moments when the world doesn't seem to make sense, or when patterns repeat in strange ways, could be evidence that we are in a simulated environment. These glitches might explain why people sometimes experience a sense of déjà vu or encounter bizarre coincidences that feel too perfect to be random. Another argument is based on the idea that the concept of the Matrix fits with certain philosophical discussions about reality. The ancient philosopher Plato, for instance, wrote about a world of shadows where people only see reflections of the real world. Some modern thinkers, like Nick Bostrom, have even proposed that it's possible we could be living in a simulation created by advanced beings. While this idea is purely theoretical, it offers an interesting link to The Matrix as more than just a film. While this theory is fascinating, it remains speculative. The movie is still fiction, created to explore ideas about reality and perception, not a documentary revealing the truth. The theory that celebrities are grown in labs is a claim that blends science fiction with real-world concerns. According to this idea, rather than being born in the usual way, certain famous individuals are created in laboratories, with their traits, appearance, and talents carefully designed. Proponents of this theory believe that celebrities, especially those who seem to rise to fame in a way that feels unnatural or too quick, might not be entirely human or were engineered for a specific purpose. Some people argue that the entertainment industry has the resources to experiment with genetic engineering, creating individuals who fit a particular mold, whether it's looks, charisma, or talent. For example, they might claim that famous actors, musicians, or models possess an almost perfect combination of traits that make them more appealing to the public, leading them to wonder if these qualities were carefully chosen in a lab. The theory often points to the idea that certain celebrities seem too perfect, in a way that could be the result of controlled breeding or genetic manipulation. Others believe the lab-grown celebrity theory connects to a larger agenda. They argue that influential figures are sometimes placed in the public eye to control public opinion or drive certain cultural trends. In this view, celebrities aren't just individuals with talent, but products engineered for mass influence. This could explain why some celebrities seem to embody a certain image or persona that the public finds irresistible. While the theory is far-fetched, it taps into real concerns about genetic engineering and the way the media and entertainment industries shape public perception. There is no evidence to support the idea that celebrities are grown in labs, and modern science is far from being able to create people like this. However, it highlights the way some individuals view fame as something manufactured or controlled by forces beyond the individual's natural talents or actions. The theory that the CIA created AIDS suggests that the US government intentionally developed the virus as part of a secret experiment. This claim first gained attention in the 1980s when AIDS was spreading rapidly, especially among certain groups. Some people believed that the virus was engineered in a laboratory and released to target specific populations, such as gay men, drug users, or African Americans. Supporters of this theory point to a few key factors. First, they argue that AIDS appeared suddenly, with no clear explanation for how it started. This leads them to believe it was man-made rather than a naturally occurring virus. Some also cite the fact that the virus was first identified in the US during the Cold War, a time when many conspiracy theories emerged about government experiments. They suggest that the CIA or other government agencies may have deliberately created and spread the virus as a form of population control or biological warfare. Another part of the theory involves the government's history of experimenting on its own citizens. For example, there were reports in the past of the CIA conducting experiments, like the MK-Ultra program, where they tested drugs on unsuspecting individuals. These real instances of unethical government actions fuel the idea that the CIA could have created AIDS as part of a larger covert operation. However, there is no credible evidence to support the claim that the CIA created AIDS. The virus is believed to have originated from the transmission of simian immunodeficiency virus, SIV, from chimpanzees to humans, likely through hunting or consumption of bushmeat. Experts agree that the virus spread naturally, though its impact was amplified by social factors like lack of awareness and treatment at the time. The idea that AIDS was created by the CIA remains a conspiracy theory, often fueled by fear and mistrust of government institutions. There is no scientific proof that AIDS was intentionally spread, and the overwhelming evidence supports the natural origins of the virus. The idea that Mars has already been colonized is a theory that suggests human settlement on the planet has occurred in secret. Some people believe that governments or private organizations, such as NASA or SpaceX, have already established bases on Mars, but the public hasn't been told. According to this theory, the official space missions and explorations are just a cover-up for what's really going on behind the scenes. Supporters of the theory point to the increasing amount of investment in space exploration and the rapid development of technologies. For example, companies like SpaceX are working on advanced spacecraft that could carry humans to Mars within a few years. This progress, combined with the idea that we are constantly being told about new space missions, leads some to believe that humans may already be living on the red planet. Some even claim that certain images taken by rovers and satellites on Mars show signs of human activity, such as structures or strange shapes in the landscape that could be evidence of a hidden colony. They argue that the public has not been given all the information about Mars missions, and that the true extent of exploration is being kept secret. Additionally, the theory suggests that Mars could already have a self-sustaining colony, with resources and technology kept away from the public eye. The idea is that governments or private corporations could have been working on Mars for years, building habitats, researching new technologies, and even mining resources, all without sharing this information with the world. However, there is no verified evidence to support this claim. All of the current missions to Mars are focused on gathering data, studying the planet, and preparing for potential future colonization. NASA and other space agencies have not confirmed any human settlements on Mars, and while space exploration is advancing, we are still far from being able to establish a permanent human presence on the planet. The theory remains speculative and without factual backing. The theory that Saturn is a broadcasting system suggests that the planet is somehow involved in transmitting signals or messages to Earth. Some proponents of this idea believe that Saturn is not just a gas giant, but a kind of giant satellite or relay station, sending signals that influence life on Earth. These signals, according to the theory, could be connected to human consciousness, world events, or even extraterrestrial communication. Supporters of the theory point to Saturn's rings, which they describe as artificial or man-made. They argue that the rings could be used to focus or transmit energy. Some even believe that Saturn itself could be a massive structure built by advanced beings to send information across the cosmos. This idea often ties into larger conspiracy theories about the government or extraterrestrials controlling human events through hidden signals. The theory draws on the fact that Saturn has long been a mysterious planet. It's far from Earth, and not much is known about it, which makes it an easy target for speculative ideas. Some suggest that the planet's unique qualities, such as its size, its strong magnetic field, and its rings, are evidence of it having a purpose far beyond what mainstream science suggests. People who believe in this theory might also mention unexplained phenomena like unusual patterns in human behavior or global events, which they attribute to Saturn's influence. They argue that these changes are the result of signals being sent by the planet. For example, some might claim that shifts in human consciousness or changes in society could be linked to transmissions from Saturn. However, there is no scientific evidence to support the idea that Saturn functions as a broadcasting system. Modern astronomy and physics explain Saturn's features, such as its rings and magnetic field, through natural processes. The theory remains speculative and is not supported by mainstream science, which views Saturn as a fascinating planet in our solar system, not a tool for communication. The claim that the Ark of the Covenant is hidden in Ethiopia is based on a long-standing tradition and a mixture of religious and historical beliefs. According to this theory, the ancient artifact, which is said to hold the Ten Commandments given to Moses, was brought to Ethiopia after the destruction of the First Temple in Jerusalem. Supporters of this theory believe that the Ark was hidden by the descendants of King Solomon and has remained in Ethiopia for centuries. Kept safe by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, one of the main sources of this belief is the Kebra Nagast, a 14th century Ethiopian text. The book claims that the Ark was brought to Ethiopia by Menelik I, the son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. It is said that Menelik took the Ark to Ethiopia to protect it from invaders. Over time, the story grew into a legend, and many Ethiopians have believed that the Ark is still kept in the Church of St. Mary of Zion in a city in northern Ethiopia. People who support this theory often point to the strong cultural and religious connection Ethiopians have with the Ark. The church in Axum is a major religious site, and only one monk is said to be allowed to see the Ark at any given time. This monk, known as the Guardian of the Ark, is believed to be the sole protector of the sacred object. Despite this belief, there is no solid evidence to confirm the Ark's presence in Ethiopia. Archaeological searches and investigations have not found the artifact, and it is possible that the Ark was lost or destroyed long ago. Some scholars argue that the Ark may have never existed in the first place, while others suggest it could be hidden in a different location. Regardless, the theory remains a powerful part of Ethiopian tradition and religious identity. The idea that the moon is a hologram is a theory that suggests the moon as we see it is not a real celestial body, but instead a projection or illusion created by advanced technology. Supporters of this theory claim that the moon's appearance and behavior do not match what we would expect from a natural object in space. They argue that the moon's surface seems too perfect, and that its features are not consistent with how natural objects are formed. One argument in favor of this theory is based on the moon's size and distance from Earth. Some believe that the moon appears unusually large in the sky compared to its distance from us. According to this theory, this is evidence that the moon is not a solid, physical object, but rather an image projected to look that way. Others claim that the moon's surface details, such as craters, look artificial, as if they were digitally created or projected onto a surface rather than naturally occurring. Some proponents also point to the idea that the moon is somehow too perfect for a natural object. They argue that it doesn't behave the way other celestial bodies do. For example, the theory suggests that the way the moon's phases work, its regular orbit, and its apparent size could be part of a designed system rather than the result of natural processes like gravitational forces. While these ideas can sound convincing to some, they are not supported by mainstream science. The moon has been studied in great detail by astronomers, and the evidence points to it being a natural satellite formed billions of years ago. The moon's behavior, including its phases and orbit, can be explained by natural forces like gravity and tidal interactions with Earth. The hologram theory relies on speculation and a misunderstanding of how the moon works. There is no evidence to support the claim that the moon is anything other than a real, solid object in space. The Paul is dead theory suggests that Paul McCartney, the famous Beatle, died in 1966 and was secretly replaced by a lookalike. According to this theory, clues about McCartney's death are hidden in Beatles songs and album covers. Some people believe that the band members, particularly John Lennon, left these messages as a way to tell the public about the death without directly stating it. Supporters of the theory point to various signs in Beatles' album. For example, on the cover of Abbey Road, Paul McCartney is barefoot, which some people believe is a symbol of death in many cultures. Others argue that the way McCartney's face is positioned on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band hints at his death. They suggest that the Beatles used these images and lyrics to communicate the truth about his supposed death without saying it outright. The theory also points to lyrics in certain Beatles songs. In Revolution 9, some claim they can hear the phrase "Turn me on, dead man" when played backward. Similarly, certain phrases in songs like "A Day in the Life" are said to hint at McCartney's death and replacement. These supposed clues have fueled the belief that the real McCartney died and was replaced by a man who looks like him but isn't actually Paul. However, there is no evidence to support the theory. McCartney himself has publicly dismissed it, and he continued to make music after 1966, both with the Beatles and as a solo artist. The theory seems to be based on speculation and misinterpretation of song lyrics and album covers. The Paul is dead conspiracy is one of many theories that have circulated about celebrities, but it lacks any solid proof. It remains a piece of pop culture that is often discussed, but is widely dismissed by the public. A theory that Antarctica is a military base hiding the edge of the world suggests that the continent is not just an icy, uninhabited place, but a secret location where governments are hiding important truths. According to this idea, Antarctica is where the edge of the Earth can be found, and its true purpose is to protect this hidden area from being discovered by the public. Supporters of the theory argue that Antarctica is not as empty as it seems. They point to the large number of military personnel and equipment in the area. Some claim that countries, including the United States, have set up military bases in Antarctica to protect the edge of the Earth, which they believe is a secret. The idea is that this location is key to understanding the true nature of our planet, and the military is keeping it hidden to maintain control over the information. Others believe that there is something unusual about the continent's geography. For example, some claim that there are large, mysterious structures buried under the ice that are being kept from the public. They argue that these structures could be evidence of a hidden world, possibly from ancient times or from extraterrestrial origins. In this view, the military presence in Antarctica is not just for research or defense, but to protect the truth about what lies beneath the ice. This theory often ties into beliefs about the Earth's shape. Some proponents suggest that the Earth is not a globe as commonly believed, but has an edge or boundary that is hidden in Antarctica. They argue that if people were to reach this edge, they would discover a hidden, vast land or even access to other dimensions. However, there is no evidence to support these claims. Antarctica is largely unexplored because of its extreme climate and remote location, and the military presence there is mostly for research purposes, not to guard a secret. The theory remains speculative and lacks scientific backing. The theory that the Vatican is hiding aliens suggests that the Catholic Church knows about extraterrestrial life, but is keeping this information secret from the public. Some people believe that the Vatican, with its vast resources and influence, has evidence of aliens, but chooses not to reveal it for various reasons, including fear of how it would affect religious teachings. Supporters of this theory point to the Vatican's long history of being involved in science and astronomy. The Vatican has its own observatory, which some claim is involved in researching extraterrestrial life. In fact, the Church has made public statements acknowledging the possibility of life beyond Earth, which some take as a subtle admission that they know more than they let on. For example, in 2008, a Vatican official suggested that the discovery of extraterrestrial life would not contradict Catholic beliefs. The theory also ties into the Vatican's control over religious knowledge. Some argue that if aliens were discovered, it would challenge many religious doctrines about humanity's place in the universe. If the Church confirmed the existence of extraterrestrials, it could force a rethinking of theological ideas and upset the foundation of many religious teachings. Additionally, some people believe that the Vatican's extensive archives may contain documents related to alien encounters or information about extraterrestrial civilizations. The Church's secretive nature and its historical involvement in global affairs give rise to the idea that it might be hiding such knowledge to avoid disruption. However, there is no direct evidence to support the claim that the Vatican is hiding aliens. The Church's statements on extraterrestrial life are largely speculative and based on the belief that the discovery of alien life would not undermine the teachings of Christianity. While the Vatican has been involved in science, there is no proof that it is secretly keeping information about aliens from the public. The theory remains one of many that blends speculation with mistrust of authority. A theory that ancient aliens built the pyramids suggests that extraterrestrial beings helped early civilizations create these massive structures. Supporters of this idea argue that the Egyptians, with their limited technology and tools, could not have possibly constructed the pyramids on their own. They believe that advanced aliens provided the knowledge or technology needed to build such complex and precisely aligned structures. Proponents often point to the size and scale of the pyramids as evidence. The Great Pyramid of Giza, for example, is made of over 2 million stone blocks, each weighing several tons. Some people argue that the ancient Egyptians didn't have the tools or machinery to move such large stones, and that only an advanced civilization, possibly from space, could have had the capability to do so. They suggest that aliens used advanced technology like anti-gravity devices or massive cranes to move the stones into place. The alignment of the pyramids is another point often mentioned by those who support the theory. The Great Pyramid is aligned with incredible precision to the cardinal points, and some claim that this level of accuracy could not have been achieved without advanced knowledge, possibly given to the Egyptians by extraterrestrials. The theory suggests that the knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and engineering needed to create such precise structures came from beings far more advanced than the humans of that time. However, mainstream archaeology explains that the Egyptians used skilled labor and simple tools to construct the pyramids. Evidence suggests they used ramps, levers, and manpower to transport the massive stones. While the pyramids are indeed impressive, they are not beyond the capabilities of the ancient Egyptians when considering the resources, time, and organization available to them. The theory that aliens built the pyramids remains speculative, with no solid evidence to support it. The idea that Finland doesn't exist is a conspiracy theory that claims the country is fictional. According to this theory, the land and people associated with Finland are part of a global cover-up. Supporters argue that the maps and media we see showing Finland are either made up or represent another location entirely. They suggest that the entire history and culture of Finland have been fabricated by governments or other powerful groups. One of the arguments for this theory is based on the idea that the country's existence is questioned due to its location and political influence. Some claim that Finland's role on the world stage is minimal and that the country has no real impact on global events. They argue that this lack of significant influence makes Finland a convenient creation, a country that never truly existed but is portrayed to the public for unknown reasons. Others believe that the idea of Finland is simply a fabrication to hide another secret location. In this view, Finland is an invented place used to disguise the activities of powerful governments or organizations. This theory often involves claims that the people who are said to be Finnish are actually from other countries, and the stories of their lives and history have been altered or invented. Another part of the theory revolves around the idea that no one has ever truly visited Finland or seen the landmass in person. Some argue that travelers and tourists who claim to have been to Finland are part of a larger scheme to perpetuate the illusion of the country's existence. They suggest that all the photos and videos of Finland are staged or altered in some way to maintain the ruse. However, there is no credible evidence to support that Finland is recognized as a real country by the international community, with a rich history and a well-documented presence in Europe. The theory remains an unfounded claim without factual backing. The theory that déjà vu is a glitch in a simulation suggests that the feeling of having experienced something before is not a natural human experience, but rather a sign of problems in the fabric of reality. According to this idea, we live in a simulated world, like the one shown in The Matrix, and moments of déjà vu occur when there's a mistake or error in the system that runs the simulation. People who believe in this theory argue that déjà vu happens when a moment is repeated, but the system struggles to process it properly. It's as if the simulation tries to run the same event again, but instead of it being smooth, it creates the feeling of familiarity or repetition in our minds. This glitch might explain why some people feel like they've already lived through a situation, even though it's happening for the first time. For example, imagine walking into a room and instantly feeling like you've been there before. You may see the same people, hear the same sounds, and feel the same emotions, yet you know it's the first time you're experiencing it. The theory suggests that this feeling could be caused by a misfire in the simulation, where the system is unable to fully distinguish between real-time events and its own processes, making us feel like we're reliving a moment. Some who support this idea also claim that other strange occurrences, like glitches in technology or inexplicable coincidences, are similar signs of the simulation breaking down. They argue that as we interact with the world, the simulation might occasionally reveal cracks or flaws, which causes us to experience these odd sensations, like déjà vu. Despite its appeal, there is no scientific evidence to support the idea that we live in a simulation or that déjà vu is a glitch. Most scientists explain déjà vu as a memory anomaly, where our brain briefly mixes up short-term and long-term memories, making it feel like we've already experienced something. While the glitch theory is intriguing, it remains speculative, without any solid proof. A theory that Skull and Bones controls U.S. politics is based on the belief that the secret society, founded at Yale University in 1832, has a disproportionate influence over the country's leaders. Skull and Bones is known for its exclusivity, with only a select group of Yale seniors invited to join each year. Members of the society are often wealthy and powerful individuals, including several U.S. presidents, senators, and business leaders. This has led to the idea that the society wields hidden power, shaping the course of American politics from behind the scenes. Supporters of this theory argue that Skull and Bones is more than just a college club. It's a network that helps its members rise to the top of U.S. politics and business. They point to the fact that prominent members, like Presidents George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush, both of whom were members, held significant political power. They suggest that these members, through their connections in Skull and Bones, are able to influence major political decisions, even if the public is unaware of their involvement. Some also claim that the society has a hand in shaping key policy decisions, as many of its members go on to hold influential positions in government, law, and business. They argue that the group's secretive nature allows it to operate without scrutiny, with its members working together to advance their shared interests. For example, some believe that Skull and Bones may play a role in major political events, pushing forward policies that benefit their members, regardless of party lines. While the society's influence is undeniable, there is no solid evidence to show that it controls U.S. politics in the way the theory suggests. the members of Skull and Bones may indeed hold power. But it is likely due to their individual successes, not the secret society itself. The theory remains a mix of speculation and fact, fueled by the society's secrecy and the political prominence of its members. The theory that 5G causes illness or mind control claims that the rollout of 5G technology is harmful to human health or is being used for manipulation. Supporters of this theory argue that the increased exposure to electromagnetic fields, EMF, from 5G towers and devices may lead to serious health problems. They believe the higher frequencies used by 5G networks are more dangerous than previous generations of mobile technology and could cause issues like headaches, fatigue, and even more severe conditions like cancer. Some of the concern stems from the fact that 5G uses a higher frequency than 4G, which some people think might have more harmful effects on the body. People who support the theory claim that the radiation emitted by 5G towers can weaken the immune system or disrupt cell function, leading to illnesses. There are even claims that long-term exposure to 5G signals could lead to neurological issues like memory loss or cognitive decline. Another version of the theory suggests that 5G is being used for mind control. Proponents argue that the technology is capable of influencing people's thoughts or behavior, possibly as a tool for mass surveillance or manipulation. They claim that the specific frequencies used in 5G could interfere with brainwaves, allowing those who control the technology to influence the minds of individuals or groups. These ideas are often linked to fears of government control or corporate surveillance. However, there is no credible scientific evidence to support these claims. Multiple studies have been conducted on the effects of EMF radiation from mobile networks, including 5G, and none have shown that the technology causes significant harm to human health. Health organizations, including the World Health Organization, have stated that the radiation levels from 5G are well within safe limits. The idea of 5G being used for mind control is purely speculative and lacks any solid evidence. The theory remains one of many that raises concern but does not have a scientific basis. The idea that the cure for cancer is being suppressed is a theory that suggests there are treatments for cancer that are being hidden from the public. Some people believe that powerful organizations, such as pharmaceutical companies or governments, are intentionally keeping these cures secret to maintain profits from cancer treatments. According to this theory, if a cure were found, it would cause a massive loss of income for companies that make money from chemotherapy, radiation, and other cancer therapies. Supporters of this theory argue that natural or alternative treatments for cancer have shown promise but are being ignored or suppressed. For example, some claim that certain plants, herbs, or alternative therapies have been proven to help fight cancer, but that these treatments are not widely promoted. They suggest that medical professionals and researchers are either not allowed to explore these methods or are actively discouraged from doing so. This idea often ties into the belief that there is a conspiracy among pharmaceutical companies to prioritize profit over human health. The theory also points to cases where individuals or small companies have developed new, promising cancer treatments but have faced significant obstacles. Some believe that these breakthroughs are suppressed, either through legal challenges or by discrediting the people behind them, to protect the financial interests of larger medical corporations. However, there is no solid evidence to support this claim. Cancer research is a global effort, and many different scientists, universities, and organizations are constantly working on finding better treatments. While it's true that some treatments, like chemotherapy, are expensive, they remain the standard because they are based on proven scientific research. The idea that a cure for cancer is being hidden often overlooks the complexity of the disease itself, which is not a single illness, but a group of many different types of diseases. Research into cancer treatments continues to evolve, with new discoveries being made every year. The theory that the Bohemian Grove rituals are satanic comes from the secretive nature of the Bohemian Grove. a private club for powerful men, including political leaders, business executives, and other influential figures. Every year, members gather at the Bohemian Grove in California for an exclusive retreat. During these gatherings, there are rituals and ceremonies that are highly secret, fueling speculation about what really happens behind closed doors. Some people believe that these rituals involve satanic practices based on the mysterious and strange aspects of the events. One of the most well-known rituals at the Bohemian Grove is the cremation of care ceremony, where participants dress in robes, perform symbolic acts, and burn an effigy of a man. Some critics have linked this ceremony to occult or satanic rituals because of the dark, secretive nature of the event and the dramatic, ritualistic imagery. The use of an owl figure, which is central to the Bohemian Grove's imagery, has also been cited as a potential connection to occult beliefs, as owls are often associated with witchcraft and ancient rituals in various cultures. Supporters of the theory argue that the people involved in the Bohemian Grove have access to great power, and such secretive ceremonies are a way for them to connect with darker forces. They believe that these rituals go beyond harmless tradition and may serve as a form of control or influence over world events. Some even suggest that the members perform these rituals to channel power or make deals with supernatural forces, with the belief that their success is linked to their participation in these secretive events. However, there is no direct evidence to support the claim that the Bohemian Grove rituals are satanic. Most of what is known about the Grove comes from leaks, rumors, and the occasional eyewitness, and the true nature of the ceremonies remains a mystery. While the secrecy surrounding the events fuels speculation, there is little to confirm the idea that they involve anything beyond ceremonial symbolism. The theory that Abraham Lincoln's assassination was orchestrated by elites suggests that his killing was not just the work of John Wilkes Booth, but part of a larger conspiracy involving powerful people. According to this theory, Lincoln's death was planned by influential figures who wanted to remove him from office due to his policies, especially his stance on the abolition of slavery and his efforts to reshape the post-Civil War country. One argument for this theory is that Lincoln had many enemies among the political and business elite. Some believed that his plans to expand the power of the federal government threatened their control over the economy and politics. These elites, including wealthy industrialists and politicians, are thought to have seen Lincoln as a threat to their interests, particularly after the Civil War ended and his plans for Reconstruction began to take shape. The theory also suggests that Booth, who is often seen as acting alone, was part of a larger network of people who wanted to ensure that Lincoln would not succeed in his goals. Supporters of this theory point to the fact that Booth was known to have connections with influential figures, including Southern sympathizers and even some in the North, who were opposed to Lincoln's policies. Another part of the theory involves the idea that Lincoln's assassination was not just about removing him as president, but also about maintaining the status quo. The theory claims that by removing Lincoln, the elites were able to ensure that his successor, Andrew Johnson, would not pursue the same radical changes in the South or the nation as a whole. Johnson's policies were much more lenient toward the South, and many believe they allowed the elites to maintain control over the country's power structures. However, there is no concrete evidence to prove that Lincoln's assassination was part of a conspiracy involving elites. The official story remains that Booth acted alone, though the secrecy and political climate of the time leave room for speculation. The theory continues to be discussed, but it lacks solid proof. A theory that all world leaders are related by blood suggests that the powerful figures who rule countries around the globe share common ancestry. Supporters of this idea argue that the world's political system is controlled by a small group of families who have maintained their influence through generations. According to this theory, these leaders are connected through royal bloodlines or elite families, often from Europe. And their connections go beyond politics into shared business or social interests. People who believe this theory point to the fact that many leaders, both current and historical, come from similar backgrounds. For example, they argue that many royal families in Europe are interrelated, often marrying within a small group of noble families. These unions are seen as a way for power to stay within a certain circle. Even outside of Europe, many political families, such as the Kennedys in the US or the Bush family, seem to hold power across generations, suggesting a connection between them and other political families worldwide. The theory also claims that this interconnectedness allows these families to maintain control over global events. The idea is that by marrying into each other's families or forming alliances, these leaders create a network of influence that stretches across the world. They argue that this group controls major decisions, such as economic policies or wars, in ways that benefit their interests, keeping power in the hands of a few. However, while it is true that some political families have remained powerful for generations, there is no solid evidence to suggest that all world leaders are related by blood. Many world leaders come from diverse backgrounds, and political power often changes through elections, revolutions, or other means. The theory remains speculative, relying on patterns of intermarriage among certain elite families, but lacks concrete proof that bloodlines control global leadership. The theory that the Black Knight satellite is an alien probe suggests that a mysterious object orbiting Earth is not a man-made satellite, but an extraterrestrial device. According to this theory, the Black Knight satellite is a centuries-old spacecraft sent by aliens to monitor Earth. Some claim that it has been in orbit for thousands of years, observing humanity without our knowledge. The story behind the Black Knight satellite begins with strange signals that were reportedly detected in the 1950s. These signals were thought to be from an unknown source, possibly an alien transmission. Supporters of the theory argue that these signals were a form of communication from the Black Knight satellite, which they believe is an alien probe sent to collect data about Earth and its inhabitants. They suggest that the satellite's purpose is to silently observe us, waiting for the right time to make contact. The theory gained more attention after an object was spotted in orbit in the 1960s, which some thought resembled the descriptions of the Black Knight satellite. Photos taken during space missions, particularly by NASA astronauts, are often cited as evidence of the object's existence. Some people believe that the unusual shape of the object, along with its orbit, is proof that it is not a natural satellite or a human-made object, but rather an alien probe. However, mainstream science explains that the Black Knight satellite is likely a combination of misidentified debris, space junk, and optical illusions. The object in question is believed to be a discarded piece of a satellite or a piece of space debris that was mistaken for something more mysterious. No concrete evidence has been found to support the claim that the Black Knight satellite is an alien probe, and scientists view it as an example of a space-related conspiracy theory. Despite this, the theory continues to capture the imagination of those who believe that the truth about extraterrestrial life is being hidden from the public. A theory that Donald Trump is secretly working with aliens suggests that the former US president is in communication with extraterrestrial beings, possibly as part of a covert deal or alliance. Supporters of this theory argue that Trump's unusual actions and policies during his presidency hint at a hidden connection with aliens, though no direct evidence supports this idea. One part of the theory focuses on Trump's interest in space and the military. For example, his creation of the Space Force, a new branch of the military focused on space operations, is seen by some as a sign that he may be preparing for contact or cooperation with extraterrestrial forces. They suggest that the formation of the Space Force is not just about national defense, but a way to establish a military presence in space as part of a larger, secret relationship with aliens. Another aspect of the theory involves Trump's business dealings and his history with classified information. Some people believe that, as a businessman, Trump may have been involved in secret negotiations with extraterrestrial entities, possibly linked to technology or resources that are not publicly known. They argue that his ability to make rapid decisions and his sometimes unpredictable behavior might be a result of guidance or influence from alien forces, helping him navigate complex political situations. Others point to Trump's personality, claiming that his ability to connect with a wide range of people, his charisma, and his apparent lack of concern for public opinion are traits that could be linked to alien influence. They suggest that his leadership style and ability to stay in the spotlight may be part of a larger, otherworldly plan to prepare humanity for future contact with extraterrestrials. Despite these claims, there is no credible evidence that Trump is working with aliens. The theory remains speculative and unfounded, with no direct proof to back up the idea of any extraterrestrial involvement in his presidency. The flat Earth theory suggests that the Earth is not a round sphere, but a flat disk. Supporters of this theory argue that all evidence supporting a round Earth, like photographs from space or the way ships disappear over the horizon, is either fabricated or misinterpreted. They believe that scientists and governments are hiding the truth about the shape of the Earth to keep the public under control. One key idea behind the flat Earth theory is that the Earth appears flat when we look around us. When standing on a large body of water, for example, the horizon looks level. Flat Earth believers argue that if the Earth were truly a globe, we would be able to see a noticeable curve from the ground or the ocean. Instead, they claim the Earth is a flat surface, surrounded by an ice wall, often thought to be Antarctica, to keep water from spilling over the edge. Another argument put forward by flat Earth supporters is the way objects move in the sky. They believe that the sun, moon, and stars are not as far away as science suggests, but are much closer, moving in a circular pattern above the flat Earth. They also argue that the lack of visible curvature during flights or from high altitudes is proof that the Earth is flat. Flat Earth believers also claim that the evidence for a round Earth is part of a large-scale conspiracy. They argue that the photos from space and the experiments proving gravity's effects are all part of a plan by governments and space agencies to deceive the public. However, the overwhelming evidence from centuries of science shows that the Earth is round. The way ships and airplanes navigate the globe, the way gravity works, and the photos from space all support the fact that Earth is spherical. Despite this, the flat Earth theory continues to be discussed in some circles, even though it lacks solid evidence. The theory that the moon landing was faked suggests that NASA staged the 1969 Apollo 11 mission in order to win the space race against the Soviet Union. Supporters of this idea claim that the US government staged the landing to appear as if humans had successfully landed on the moon, even though it never actually happened. One argument for this theory is based on the photos and videos taken during the moon landing. Some people believe that certain aspects of the footage, like the way the flag appears to move or the lighting of the scene, don't match the conditions on the moon. They argue that the flag should not flutter in the vacuum of space, and the shadows in the photos appear inconsistent, as if the light source was controlled in a studio rather than coming from the sun. Supporters of the theory claim these are signs that the entire event was filmed on Earth, in a controlled environment. Another part of the theory questions the technology of the time. Some argue that it was impossible for NASA to have successfully sent astronauts to the moon using the technology available in the 1960s. They suggest that the spacecraft and the lunar module were too rudimentary to accomplish such a complex mission. According to this view, the US government may have felt it was easier to fake the moon landing than to risk the lives of astronauts with unproven technology. There are also claims about the lack of recent lunar missions. Some suggest that since no one has returned to the moon since Apollo 17 in 1972, this is evidence that the original landings were fake, and there is no real reason to go back. However, there is overwhelming evidence, including moon rocks, scientific experiments, and testimonies from astronauts and engineers that the moon landings did occur. Despite this, the theory that the moon landing was faked continues to capture the imagination of some, despite lacking credible support. The theory that Tupac Shakur faked his death suggests that the famous rapper is still alive, despite reports of his death in 1996. Supporters of this theory argue that Tupac staged his death to escape the pressures of fame, personal issues, or even threats from enemies. They believe that his death was a carefully planned event, and that the public was misled into thinking he had been killed in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas. One argument in favor of this theory is that Tupac had shown signs of being interested in escaping his life in the spotlight. In the months leading up to his death, he had spoken about leaving the music industry and possibly faking his own death. Some point to his lyrics, which contain references to death and the afterlife, as evidence that he may have planned his disappearance. Another part of the theory is based on the circumstances surrounding his death. Tupac's death was officially attributed to a drive-by shooting, but some believe the details don't add up. They claim that the lack of clear evidence, such as security footage or witness testimony, raises questions about whether the shooting really happened as reported. Additionally, Tupac's body was cremated quickly, which some think was done to prevent further investigation. Tupac's posthumous releases also fuel the theory. Many believe that the large number of songs and albums that were released after his death suggest that he had recorded enough material to continue making music. Some even argue that the fact that he remained active in the media after his death, through cryptic messages, interviews, and social media posts, suggests that he is still alive and choosing to stay out of the public eye. Despite this, there is no concrete evidence to support the idea that Tupac faked his death. His death certificate and reports from friends and family members confirm that he passed away in 1996. The theory remains speculative and lacks solid proof. The theory that Adolf Hitler escaped to Argentina suggests that the Nazi leader did not die in his Berlin bunker in 1945, but instead fled to South America to avoid capture. According to this theory, Hitler used a network of Nazi sympathizers to escape to Argentina, where he allegedly lived out the rest of his life in hiding. One of the key reasons people believe in this theory is the mystery surrounding Hitler's death. Official accounts state that he committed suicide in his bunker, but no one saw his body after the event. Some supporters of the theory argue that the Soviets, who discovered Hitler's remains, may have lied about his death to avoid the embarrassment of allowing the Nazi leader to escape. They claim that Hitler's body was never conclusively identified, which fuels speculation that he survived. The theory also points to the large number of Nazis who did escape to South America after World War II. Many former Nazi officials, doctors, and soldiers were believed to have fled to countries like Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay, where they were given refuge by sympathetic governments. Some claim that Hitler was among them, protected by these networks to help him avoid justice. Supporters of the theory argue that Hitler may have lived in Argentina under a false identity, possibly using the resources of former Nazis who helped him. They point to various reports of sightings of Hitler in South America in the years after the war. There are also claims that some of his close associates, like Joseph Mengele, the infamous Nazi doctor, were believed to have lived in South America for years, further suggesting that a network existed to protect them. However, there is no solid evidence to support the idea that Hitler escaped to Argentina. Official records, including testimonies from those in his inner circle, confirm that he died in 1945. Despite this, the theory continues to be a topic of speculation, for those who believe that history has been hidden or altered. The theory that Katy Perry is actually JonBenet Ramsey suggests that the famous pop star is the same person as the young beauty queen who was tragically found dead in her home in 1996. Supporters of this theory believe that JonBenet, who was 6 years old at the time of her death, faked her death and later resurfaced as Katy Perry, the pop singer we know today. One argument in favor of this theory is based on similarities between Katy Perry and JonBenet Ramsey. For example, some people point out that they look alike, especially around the eyes and face shape. They argue that the resemblance is too strong to be a coincidence, suggesting that JonBenet could have grown up to become Katy Perry. Supporters also claim that Katy Perry's career in the entertainment industry is a way for JonBenet to live a new life, far from the tragic events surrounding her death. Another part of the theory focuses on the idea that JonBenet's death was a cover-up. Some believe that she was actually kidnapped or taken into witness protection, and her death was staged to protect her from a dangerous situation. They suggest that the investigation into JonBenet's death was mishandled, leaving room for speculation about what really happened. After her death, the theory claims, she assumed a new identity and went on to become Katy Perry, a famous figure in music and entertainment. There are also claims that Katy Perry's music videos and public persona contain hidden references to JonBenet Ramsey's life. Some believe that certain themes in Perry's songs or appearances are subtle clues to her true identity. They suggest that these references are intentional and meant to reveal the truth to those who are paying attention. However, there is no credible evidence to support the idea that Katy Perry is JonBenet Ramsey. The official cause of JonBenet's death remains unsolved, and there is no connection between her and Katy Perry that can be confirmed. The theory remains speculative and lacks solid proof. A theory that Britney Spears was controlled by the government suggests that her life and career were manipulated or directed by powerful entities, possibly even the US government. Some believe that her public breakdowns and struggles, particularly during the 2000s, were part of a plan to control her image or prevent her from revealing sensitive information. According to this theory, Britney's personal and professional life was orchestrated, making her a puppet in the hands of those in power. Supporters of this theory point to the way Britney's career took off so quickly and the intense media scrutiny she faced. They argue that her fame was carefully manufactured by the entertainment industry, possibly with the help of government agencies. Some believe that her public breakdown in 2007, which led to her being placed under a conservatorship, was not just the result of personal struggles, but a controlled response to keep her from speaking out on certain topics. The theory suggests that the conservatorship, which was placed under the control of her father and others, was a form of government influence, limiting her autonomy and ability to make decisions for herself. Others speculate that Britney was used as a distraction or tool for broader agendas. They argue that the intense media attention on her personal life kept the public focused on trivial matters, while other important events were happening in the world. In this view, Britney's breakdown and subsequent treatment were part of a larger plan to manage public attention and keep her from becoming too vocal or outspoken on controversial issues. However, there is no solid evidence to suggest that the government directly controlled Britney Spears. Her conservatorship was established due to her mental health issues, and while many people have questioned the fairness of it, it was legally recognized by the courts. The idea that her life was manipulated by the government remains speculative and based on conspiracy theories rather than facts. The theory that the Antichrist is already among us suggests that a person, possibly well-known or influential, is the embodiment of evil predicted in religious texts. Supporters of this theory argue that certain signs point to the arrival of the Antichrist, and they believe that the figure is either already here or soon to make his presence known. The Antichrist is often described as someone who will deceive the world, leading people away from faith and causing great suffering. One argument for this theory is based on current global events. Some people believe that widespread turmoil, such as wars, political instability, and natural disasters are signs that the end times have begun. They point to figures in politics, entertainment, or business, claiming that one of them may be the Antichrist. This person is often described as charismatic, able to sway large crowds and gain power. Supporters of the theory argue that the Antichrist will rise to prominence in times of chaos, offering solutions that ultimately lead to destruction. Another aspect of the theory focuses on the idea of global unification. Some believe that the Antichrist will establish a one-world government, uniting all nations under his rule. This idea is based on interpretations of biblical prophecies, which mention a leader who will control the world and demand worship. The theory suggests that the person who will take this role is already making moves to consolidate power and influence. Others believe that the Antichrist could be a hidden figure, not yet known to the public, who is quietly gaining power behind the scenes. They argue that this person may be manipulating events from the shadows, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. For example, they might say that the Antichrist is someone with a significant amount of influence, but who has yet to fully show their true nature. While this theory draws on religious prophecy, there is no concrete evidence to support the claim that the Antichrist is already among us. The idea remains speculative, often tied to fear and uncertainty about the future. The theory that lizard people secretly run governments suggests that a group of reptilian aliens or shape-shifting beings have taken control of world leaders and institutions. According to this idea, these lizard people are not just living among us, but are actually in charge, manipulating politics and global events for their own purposes. Some believe that these beings use their advanced technology and ability to disguise themselves as humans to rise to positions of power. Supporters of this theory argue that certain political leaders and influential figures have unusual traits or behaviors that suggest they might not be entirely human. For example, they claim that some leaders display odd eye movements or a cold, unemotional demeanor, which they believe could be signs of their true reptilian nature. Others point to the idea that many powerful figures seem to maintain their positions for decades, remaining in control regardless of elections or public opinion. This is seen as evidence that these leaders are not just ordinary humans, but are part of a larger plan to keep power in the hands of the lizard people. The theory also suggests that these lizard people have a hidden agenda, aiming to manipulate humanity for their own benefit. They may control world events, like wars or economic crises, in ways that serve their interests. Some theorists argue that these beings are responsible for keeping humanity in a state of constant conflict, distraction, or fear, allowing them to maintain control without being noticed. While the idea of lizard people running governments may seem extreme, it taps into broader concerns about corruption and power. However, there is no solid evidence to support the theory, and mainstream science explains political behavior through more practical means, like human ambition and the complexity of global politics. Despite this, the lizard people theory continues to appeal to some who feel that something hidden is behind the decisions made by world leaders. The theory that the Illuminati control the world suggests that a secret group of powerful individuals is behind many major global events. According to this idea, the Illuminati is a secret society made up of influential people, such as politicians, business leaders, and celebrities, who work together to shape the future of humanity in secret. Some believe that this group has existed for centuries, operating behind the scenes to control governments, the economy, and even cultural movements. One argument for this theory is that the Illuminati is said to manipulate world events to maintain its power. For example, some claim that major wars, economic crises, and political upheavals are orchestrated by this group to keep the public distracted or to increase their wealth and control. Others suggest that the Illuminati uses events like natural disasters or pandemics to influence global politics or to push forward certain agendas, such as increasing government surveillance or restricting individual freedoms. Supporters of the theory also point to symbols associated with the Illuminati, such as the pyramid with an eye on the US dollar bill, as evidence that the group's influence is hidden in plain sight. They argue that these symbols are used to communicate their control over the world. Some also point to certain celebrities or political leaders who they believe are part of the Illuminati, claiming that their rise to fame or power was influenced by the secret group. While this theory is popular in conspiracy circles, there is no solid evidence to suggest that the Illuminati controls world events. The idea often relies on speculation and misinterpretation of symbols or events, rather than facts. Many of the claims are based on the belief that certain people or organizations hold too much power and that their influence must be the result of a secret plan. However, mainstream historians and political analysts explain world events through more tangible causes, such as political ideologies, economic interests, and social movements. The theory that Beyoncé is in the Illuminati suggests that the famous singer is part of a secret society that controls global events. According to this idea, Beyoncé, like other prominent figures in music, politics, and entertainment, is connected to a group of influential people who pull the strings behind the scenes. Some people believe that her success and influence are tied to this membership, and that the Illuminati helped her rise to fame. One of the main arguments for this theory is Beyoncé's use of symbols and imagery in her music and performances. For example, she has often used imagery like the all-seeing eye and pyramids, which are linked to the Illuminati. Some people point to the cover of her album 4, where the pyramid and eye are visible as proof of her connection to the secret group. These symbols are believed to represent power, control, and a hidden agenda, leading to the idea that Beyoncé is signaling her membership in the Illuminati. Another part of the theory focuses on Beyoncé's rise to stardom. Supporters of the idea argue that her rapid success, particularly at a young age, is too extraordinary to be the result of talent alone. They suggest that the Illuminati, with its vast network of power, could have helped her climb the ranks of the music industry. The theory also ties into the idea that many successful celebrities are part of this secret group, suggesting that their fame is orchestrated by these powerful forces. Beyoncé herself has denied these claims, and there is no solid evidence to prove she is part of the Illuminati. Many of the symbols used in her work are seen as artistic choices rather than hidden messages. While the theory remains popular in some circles, it often relies on speculation and misinterpretation of her music and public image. The theory that CERN is altering time suggests that the Large Particle Collider in Switzerland, known as CERN, is somehow manipulating or changing the flow of time. Supporters of this theory believe that the experiments conducted at CERN, particularly those involving high-energy collisions in the Large Hadron Collider, LHC, are affecting the fabric of reality in ways that scientists may not fully understand. One argument for this theory focuses on the idea that CERN is attempting to recreate conditions similar to the Big Bang, which could lead to unpredictable results. Some claim that these high-energy experiments could distort the fabric of space-time, creating anomalies where the rules of time no longer apply as we know them. For example, they suggest that time could slow down, speed up, or even loop, causing changes in the way we experience reality. People who support this theory often point to reports of strange occurrences, like déjà vu, unusual coincidences, or even changes in the past, as possible evidence of time manipulation. Another part of the theory involves the idea of parallel universes. Some believe that CERN's experiments may have opened gateways to alternate realities or timelines, which could explain why some people feel like they are experiencing events that shouldn't be happening, or remember things differently. They argue that CERN's research into particle physics and the structure of the universe could have created rifts between different versions of reality. Despite the speculation, mainstream science does not support the idea that CERN is altering time. The experiments at CERN are focused on understanding the fundamental particles and forces that make up the universe, and there is no evidence to suggest that they are capable of manipulating time in any way. While the Large Hadron Collider is a powerful tool for scientific discovery, it operates within the boundaries of known physics, and altering time would require conditions far beyond our current understanding. The theory remains speculative, with no solid proof to support it. The theory that the Pope is the head of a global cult suggests that the leader of the Catholic Church is in charge of a secret organization that controls global events and holds hidden power over its followers. Supporters of this theory argue that the Vatican, under the leadership of the Pope, has manipulated political and religious affairs for centuries, creating a network of influence that extends far beyond the Church itself. Some people believe that the Catholic Church is not just a religious institution, but a powerful secret society that has shaped history to maintain its control. They point to the Church's vast wealth, political influence, and secrecy as evidence that it operates like a cult, with the Pope as its leader. This group is thought to control key figures in governments, businesses, and other institutions, using religion as a tool to enforce their power and influence. They argue that the Pope's role extends beyond spiritual leadership, with a hidden agenda to control global events and maintain a certain order. Supporters of this theory often point to the Vatican's long history and its ability to survive political changes as proof of its secretive power. They claim that the Church has orchestrated key moments in history, from wars to treaties, to further its agenda. The idea is that the Pope's authority extends to a network of followers, some of whom may not even realize they are part of this secret group. The theory suggests that the Vatican holds significant influence over world governments, controlling leaders and decisions from behind the scenes. Despite these claims, there is no credible evidence to support the idea that the Pope leads a global cult. The Catholic Church is a religious institution with a long history of spiritual and social influence. While its role in world politics has been significant, there is no proof to suggest it operates as a secret society or cult, working to manipulate global events for its own benefit. The theory remains speculative, fueled by mistrust and misunderstanding of the Church's influence. The theory that Lady Gaga is a member of a satanic cult suggests that the pop star is involved in dark, occult practices as part of her rise to fame. Supporters of this theory argue that her music, performances, and public persona are filled with hidden symbols and messages that connect her to satanic or occult groups. They claim that her use of imagery, such as references to the devil or occult symbols, is part of a larger plan to influence her fans and spread these ideas. One reason people believe this theory is due to the symbols Lady Gaga often uses in her music videos and stage performances. For example, she has been seen wearing outfits with eye symbols, the number 666, and other images that are associated with occult practices or satanic rituals. Supporters of the theory argue that these symbols are not just artistic choices, but are meant to send a hidden message to her audience, indicating her allegiance to dark forces. Additionally, Lady Gaga's lyrics are sometimes interpreted as having deeper, more sinister meanings. Some believe that her songs, which often deal with themes of fame, power, and control, are a way of communicating her involvement with a secret group that operates behind the scenes. Her fans, some argue, are unknowingly being influenced by these hidden messages, with Lady Gaga acting as a conduit for these ideas. Another aspect of the theory involves her rise to fame. Some believe that Lady Gaga's rapid success is not just due to her talent, but because she is part of a larger, orchestrated plan involving powerful, secretive groups. They argue that these groups, possibly related to the Illuminati or satanic cults, use her as a tool to spread their influence. However, there is no evidence to support these claims. Lady Gaga herself has stated that her work is a form of art and expression, and she has denied any involvement in occult or satanic practices. The theory remains speculative, based on interpretations of her public image rather than any solid proof. A theory that the Denver International Airport DIA is a secret headquarters for the elite suggests that the airport is more than just a transportation hub. According to this idea, the airport is a hidden base of operations for a powerful, secret group that controls global events. Supporters of the theory argue that DIA's unusual design, strange artwork, and large size are clues pointing to its true purpose. One of the main arguments for this theory is the airport's bizarre artwork and symbols. Some people point to murals in the airport that depict scenes of war, death, and destruction. These images are seen by some as a form of hidden messaging, suggesting a connection to darker forces or a plan to control the world. The airport's mascot, a large horse statue with glowing red eyes, is also seen as an unsettling symbol, leading to speculation that it represents something more sinister. Another part of the theory focuses on the airport's design. DIA is much larger than most other airports, and its layout is unusual. Some believe that the airport was built with underground bunkers or secret facilities, where the elite could hide in the event of a global crisis. They argue that the airport's hidden areas are used for private meetings, storage of resources, or even as a safe haven for those in power. The presence of extensive underground tunnels is often cited as evidence that the airport serves as a base for a shadowy group. Some also believe that the construction of the airport itself was part of a larger plan. The airport was completed late and went over budget, which supporters of the theory argue was because it was built with secret purposes in mind. The amount of time and money invested is seen by some as too much for just a normal airport project. However, there is no solid evidence to support the idea that DIA is a secret headquarters. The strange artwork and layout are more likely to be artistic choices or the result of practical airport design, rather than proof of a hidden agenda. Despite this, the theory continues to attract attention and speculation. A theory that 9/11 was an inside job suggests that the US government, or certain groups within it, were involved in planning or allowing the attacks on September 11, 2001. Some people believe that the government staged or helped facilitate the attacks to justify wars, increase security measures, and expand government power. One argument for this theory is based on the idea that the World Trade Center buildings, particularly Building 7, collapsed in ways that seem too controlled. Supporters of the theory argue that the building's destruction looked like a controlled demolition, something that requires careful planning and precise timing. They suggest that the government orchestrated this to create a dramatic reason for the US to go to war, particularly in the Middle East, where oil resources and strategic interests were at stake. Another part of the theory involves the attacks themselves. Some argue that the US government either allowed the hijackers to carry out their plan or that they were somehow complicit in the attacks. They point to information from intelligence agencies, which some believe knew about the plot before it happened but chose not to act on it. This argument is based on the idea that allowing the attacks to happen would serve the government's long-term goals, such as passing new laws like the Patriot Act or starting wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. People who support the inside job theory also argue that the response to the attacks was suspicious. They suggest that the government used the shock of the events to increase control over citizens, monitoring their communications and expanding surveillance powers. Some even claim that certain parts of the media or political leaders were complicit in hiding the truth, adding to the conspiracy. However, there is no direct evidence to support these claims. The official investigation into the 9/11 attacks concluded that the hijackers were members of Al-Qaeda, and the collapses of the buildings were caused by the impact of the planes and the resulting fires. The theory remains popular among some groups, but is largely dismissed by experts. A theory that the cure for cancer exists but is being hidden suggests that a treatment for cancer is already available, but is kept secret by powerful groups, such as pharmaceutical companies, to protect their profits. According to this idea, companies make billions of dollars from cancer treatments, like chemotherapy and radiation, and have no interest in revealing a cure because it would end their financial gains. Supporters of this theory argue that many alternative treatments for cancer, which are often cheaper and less harmful than traditional treatments, are ignored or even suppressed by the medical establishment. They believe that natural remedies, such as certain herbs, diets, or therapies, have been shown to have positive effects on cancer, but are not widely promoted. Some even claim that doctors and researchers are silenced or discouraged from exploring these alternative treatments because they threaten the profits of pharmaceutical companies. Another part of the theory involves the idea that scientific research on cancer cures is intentionally slow or blocked. Some believe that governments or large corporations control the flow of information, choosing to focus on treatments that bring in the most money rather than those that could truly cure the disease. They argue that a cure may have been discovered years ago, but is kept hidden to maintain the current system of cancer treatment, which remains highly profitable. There are also claims that people who have developed cures for cancer, such as alternative medicine practitioners, have been silenced or discredited. Some say that these individuals are either ignored or labeled as quacks, preventing their methods from gaining mainstream acceptance. However, mainstream science continues to search for effective cancer treatments. While there are still no guaranteed cures, researchers are making progress in understanding cancer and finding new ways to treat it. The theory that a cure is being hidden remains speculative, with no concrete evidence to support it. The theory that the moon is hollow suggests that the moon is not a solid object, as we've been led to believe, but instead an artificial, hollow structure. According to this idea, the moon might be some kind of spacecraft or space station placed in orbit around Earth by advanced extraterrestrial beings. Supporters of this theory argue that the moon's unusual characteristics, like its size, weight, and the way it resonates, suggest it is not made of the same material as other celestial bodies. One argument for this theory is based on the idea that the moon is too perfect to be natural. The moon is precisely the right size and distance from Earth to cause the total solar eclipses we observe. Some people believe that this perfect fit is too coincidental to be the result of natural processes and might point to the moon being intentionally placed in orbit. Another part of the theory comes from the moon's density. Scientists have measured the moon's mass and found that it is less dense than Earth, which has led some to speculate that the moon could be hollow or contain a large empty space inside. In 1969, during the Apollo missions, NASA astronauts intentionally dropped a large object on the lunar surface to measure the moon's seismic activity. The moon's surface reverberated for hours, leading some to claim that it was hollow or artificially designed, since this kind of resonance is not typically found in natural bodies. Others argue that the moon's surface features, like its craters, and the way they seem to be too evenly distributed, support the idea that it's not naturally formed. They believe that these features may have been created by external forces, or even that the moon is a structure built for some unknown purpose. Despite the theory's popularity among conspiracy circles, there is no evidence to suggest that the moon is hollow. Scientists explain its characteristics through natural processes, such as the impact of meteors and the way the moon formed from debris left over after a collision with Earth. A theory that John F. Kennedy Jr. faked his death suggests that the son of former President John F. Kennedy is still alive and hiding from the public. Supporters of this idea claim that his death in 1999, when his plane crashed into the ocean off the coast of Massachusetts, was staged. They argue that JFK Jr. faked his death for reasons ranging from personal safety to a desire to escape the pressures of public life. One argument for this theory is based on the circumstances surrounding his death. JFK Jr.'s plane was said to have crashed in poor weather conditions, and his body was found several days later. Some people believe the timing of the crash and the lack of clear answers point to something suspicious. They argue that the crash was orchestrated to give the illusion of death, with JFK Jr. disappearing to live a quiet life away from the media spotlight. Another part of the theory focuses on the idea that JFK Jr. had reasons to want to escape his public life. He was a well-known figure, being the son of a famous president, and his life was constantly under the media's scrutiny. Some suggest that he may have wanted to step out of the spotlight for personal reasons, such as wanting to protect his family or avoid the pressure of living up to his father's legacy. There are also claims that JFK Jr. had plans to enter politics and might have faked his death to start over. Some theorists believe that he could have been involved in secret political or social movements, waiting for the right moment to return. Supporters of the theory often point to supposed sightings of JFK Jr. after his death, suggesting that he is still alive and living under a new identity. Despite this, there is no concrete evidence to suggest that JFK Jr. faked his death. The official investigation concluded that the crash was accidental, and there is no verifiable proof that he is still alive. The theory remains speculative, with no solid backing from credible sources. The theory that the simulation is breaking down suggests that the reality we experience is actually a simulated environment, and that this simulation is starting to fail or glitch. According to this idea, the world we live in, including everything we see, feel, and experience, is part of a digital creation controlled by some higher power or advanced technology. As the simulation breaks down, we begin to notice inconsistencies, strange occurrences, and things that don't quite make sense. People who believe in this theory argue that small, unexplained events are signs of the simulation failing. For example, they may point to glitches in the world around us, like moments of déjà vu, where we feel we've experienced something before, or instances when technology malfunctions in strange ways. These events are seen as hints that the system is struggling to keep up, causing errors in the fabric of reality. Some also suggest that large-scale events, like natural disasters or inexplicable coincidences, are the result of the simulation not functioning properly. Another part of this theory focuses on the idea that our perception of time and space may not be as stable as we think. People who support the theory claim that time seems to move differently in certain situations, like during moments of extreme stress or joy. These shifts could be signs that the simulation is having trouble maintaining the illusion of a smooth, continuous experience. Some also believe that the system may be getting overwhelmed. They argue that as technology and artificial intelligence advance, the simulation we live in may start to lose control. This could explain why we feel like the world is becoming more chaotic or unpredictable. In this view, the breakdown of the simulation could lead to a collapse of reality as we know it, creating confusion and uncertainty. While the simulation theory remains speculative, it offers a way to explain strange occurrences that don't fit into our normal understanding of the world. However, there is no scientific proof to back up these claims. The idea remains more of a thought experiment than a proven fact. The theory that history is being rewritten in real time suggests that what we are taught about the past is constantly changing, and that those in power are altering history as it unfolds. According to this idea, governments, organizations, or powerful individuals may be manipulating historical records, changing events, or erasing certain facts to control the narrative and influence public perception. One argument for this theory is the way information is updated or altered over time. For example, textbooks and media reports can be revised to reflect new interpretations of events, sometimes leaving out details that don't fit a certain agenda. Supporters of the theory point to instances where historical events have been reinterpreted or presented differently based on new discoveries or shifting political climates. They argue that what we know about the past might not be the full truth, but a version of events created to serve a particular purpose. In the digital age, some believe that the manipulation of history happens even more quickly. The rise of social media and online platforms means that information can be changed or removed in an instant. People might see different versions of historical events based on where they get their news, and the constant stream of new information can make it difficult to know what's true and what's been altered. For example, photos or videos can be edited to create a false narrative, and historical records can be easily updated or erased from digital archives. Another aspect of this theory is the idea that certain events are intentionally forgotten or ignored. Supporters argue that inconvenient truths, such as historical injustices or unpopular decisions, are often left out of mainstream education. By selectively focusing on certain aspects of history, they believe that those in control can shape public opinion and prevent people from questioning the past. While this theory taps into concerns about information control, it remains speculative. However, the way history is taught and the constant flow of information does raise important questions about how we understand the past. A theory that CERN is trying to summon demons suggests that the experiments conducted at the European Organization for Nuclear Research are not just about physics, but have a darker purpose. Supporters of this theory argue that the scientists at CERN, with their advanced technology and high-energy particle collisions, are inadvertently or deliberately opening portals to other dimensions or realms, potentially allowing demons or malevolent entities to enter our world. One part of the theory focuses on the Large Hadron Collider, the world's most powerful particle accelerator. Some people believe that the high-energy experiments conducted at CERN could create conditions that allow for supernatural entities to cross into our reality. The idea is that by smashing particles together at such high speeds, CERN might be disturbing the fabric of space and time, possibly ripping open gateways to other dimensions or realms. This could allow beings, such as demons, to enter Earth. Another argument supporting this theory involves the symbolism used by CERN. Some conspiracy theorists point to the statue of the Hindu god Shiva, the Lord of Destruction, which stands at the entrance of CERN's facility. They claim that this symbol is a hint of the organization's hidden agenda, suggesting that they are working with forces beyond our understanding. The statue, which depicts Shiva performing the dance of destruction, is seen by some as a representation of the chaos CERN is believed to be unleashing. Supporters of this theory also mention the strange rituals or events that have occurred at CERN. Some claim that certain ceremonies held at the facility, or even the behavior of its scientists, resemble occult practices. These people believe that the scientists are either unknowingly summoning demons or working with dark forces to unlock powers that should not be disturbed. However, there is no scientific evidence to support the idea that CERN is summoning demons or opening portals to other dimensions. The experiments at CERN are aimed at understanding fundamental particles and forces, and the organization itself has no connection to occult practices. The theory remains speculative, relying on misinterpretations of scientific research and symbols. The theory that the US has a treaty with aliens suggests that the government has secretly made an agreement with extraterrestrial beings. According to this idea, the US government has been in contact with aliens for decades, and in exchange for access to advanced technology, the aliens have been allowed to observe humanity or even conduct experiments. Supporters of this theory often point to the government's secrecy surrounding UFO sightings and encounters. They argue that the US has hidden evidence of extraterrestrial contact to avoid public panic or to maintain control over the information. Some claim that this treaty involves the exchange of knowledge and technology, particularly related to energy, medicine, or space travel. The idea is that the aliens have shared technology that has allowed the US to leap ahead in certain scientific areas. A key element of this theory is the supposed deal made during the 1940s or 1950s, often referred to as the Greada Treaty. According to this version, the US government allegedly met with extraterrestrials at a secret meeting where an agreement was made to exchange technology for permission to study human beings. Supporters of the theory believe that incidents like the Roswell crash, where an alleged UFO was reported to have crashed in New Mexico, are part of this larger agreement, with the government covering up the details to keep the public unaware. Others claim that this treaty also involves some form of collaboration on global or military matters. They suggest that the US and other world powers might be working with aliens in secret to help guide humanity's future or to protect Earth from potential threats from space. However, there is no solid evidence to support the claim that the US has made any such agreement with extraterrestrials. The theory relies heavily on speculation, rumors, and alleged eyewitness accounts, rather than any verifiable facts. The government maintains that there has been no official contact with aliens, and much of the information available is either unproven or debunked. The theory remains speculative, with no clear proof to back it up. A theory that vaccines contain microchips suggests that governments or other powerful groups are using vaccinations to implant tracking devices in people. According to this idea, the microchips are inserted into the body through vaccines, allowing authorities to track people's movements, monitor their health, or control their behavior. Some people believe that the COVID-19 vaccines, in particular, are being used for this purpose, although there is no evidence to support this claim. Supporters of the theory argue that the use of microchips in vaccines could be a way to enforce surveillance on a global scale. They suggest that the widespread distribution of vaccines, especially during a pandemic, would make it easy to implant these chips without people noticing. The idea is that once the microchip is in the body, it could be activated remotely to gather information or even influence a person's actions. Some proponents of the theory believe that these chips could be linked to 5G networks or other technologies, making it possible for governments or corporations to track people in real time. Another part of the theory is tied to the idea of control. Some claim that the goal of implanting microchips is to create a system of total surveillance, where every movement, transaction, and action is monitored. They argue that this would make it easier for authorities to enforce laws or even manipulate the population in various ways. They point to the increased use of technology in everyday life, like smartphones and smart devices, as evidence that society is already moving toward greater surveillance. However, there is no credible evidence to suggest that vaccines contain microchips. The ingredients in vaccines are well documented, and there is no mention of microchips in any vaccine formulations. Health experts and organizations like the World Health Organization and the Centers for Disease Control have consistently debunked the microchip theory, emphasizing that vaccines are safe and are used to protect against disease, not for tracking purposes. The theory remains a widely spread conspiracy with no factual basis to support it. A theory that the Roswell incident was an alien crash site suggests that a UFO crashed near Roswell, New Mexico in 1947, and that the US government covered up the discovery. Supporters of this theory argue that the government recovered an alien spacecraft and its occupants, then hid the evidence to prevent public panic and to keep the knowledge of extraterrestrial life secret. The story began when the US Army first reported the recovery of a flying disc in July 1947. Shortly after, the military changed its statement, claiming it was a weather balloon, leading some to believe that something more was being concealed. People who support the alien crash theory believe that the US government did not find a weather balloon, but an alien craft, and that the materials recovered from the site were far more advanced than anything known at the time. Some versions of the theory suggest that the government recovered alien bodies along with the craft. Eyewitnesses who came forward years later claimed to have seen alien corpses at the crash site or at a nearby military facility. These claims added fuel to the idea that the crash was extraterrestrial in origin. Supporters of the theory also point to the secrecy surrounding the event. They argue that the US government did not find a weather balloon, but an alien craft, and that the materials recovered from the site were far more advanced than anything known at the time. Supporters of the theory also point to the secrecy surrounding the event. Military and government worked hard to suppress information about the crash, with witnesses being silenced or intimidated. The military's shifting story, from the initial reports of a flying disc to the later weather balloon explanation, is often cited as evidence of a cover-up. However, the US government maintains that the crash was the result of a weather balloon from a secret military project known as Project Mogul, which was designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests. Investigations and reports have not found any credible evidence of an alien spacecraft at the site. Despite this, the theory continues to be popular among UFO enthusiasts, fueled by decades of speculation and conflicting statements. The theory that the Vatican Bank launders global black ops funds suggests that the bank is involved in secretly handling money tied to covert military operations, intelligence agencies, and other illegal activities. According to this theory, the Vatican Bank, with its secrecy and complex financial dealings, is used by powerful groups to move large amounts of money without scrutiny, often to fund secretive or illegal operations around the world. One argument for this theory is based on the bank's history of financial scandals and lack of transparency. Over the years, the Vatican Bank has faced accusations of money laundering, fraud, and corruption. In the 1980s, for example, the bank was linked to the collapse of the Banco Ambrosiano, an Italian bank that was involved in a major financial scandal. Some people believe that the Vatican Bank has continued to be used for illicit activities, including the laundering of funds from black ops missions, which are often carried out by intelligence agencies or covert military groups. Supporters of the theory also argue that the Vatican Bank's status as a sovereign entity makes it a prime location for hiding funds from international oversight. The bank operates independently from other financial institutions, and its operations are not subject to the same rules as regular. This has led some to believe that it is the perfect place to channel money from secret operations without attracting attention. Additionally, some people point to the Vatican's global influence and connections with governments, intelligence agencies, and multinational corporations. They believe that the bank's role in global finance allows it to move money across borders, making it difficult to trace. In this view, the Vatican Bank serves as a central hub for funds used in secretive operations that are not meant to be publicly known. While the theory is based on speculation and historical events, there is no concrete evidence to support the claim that the Vatican Bank is involved in laundering funds for black ops. The Vatican itself has repeatedly denied any involvement in such activities. The theory remains a subject of debate among conspiracy theorists and critics of the Church's financial dealings. The theory that birds are government surveillance drones suggests that what we think of as everyday birds are actually advanced robotic devices used to spy on the public. According to this idea, birds such as pigeons or sparrows are not real animals, but cleverly disguised drones designed by governments to monitor our activities. The theory proposes that these birds are equipped with cameras and sensors, allowing the government to track people's movements, record conversations, and gather data without being noticed. Supporters of this theory argue that the growing presence of birds in urban areas, especially near public spaces, is suspicious. They point to moments when birds seem to act strangely, such as standing motionless for long periods or flying in patterns that seem too coordinated. These behaviors, they claim, suggest that birds are not behaving naturally but are instead controlled by hidden forces for surveillance purposes. One part of the theory suggests that the bird's constant presence in the sky allows governments to gather information without detection. Since most people don't question the presence of birds, it's seen as an ideal cover for surveillance technology. Proponents argue that these robotic birds could be powered by solar energy and collect data in real time, feeding it back to government agencies. Another aspect of the theory involves the idea that bird deaths or large flocks of birds behaving unusually might indicate a malfunction in these drones. Some believe that the rare reports of large numbers of birds falling from the sky or behaving oddly are signs that the surveillance technology has failed, causing the drones to malfunction. However, there is no evidence to support this theory. Birds are real animals, and their behavior can be explained by natural causes, such as migration, mating rituals, or environmental factors. The idea that birds are government drones remains a conspiracy theory without any factual basis, relying on suspicion and misunderstanding of natural bird behavior. The theory that reptilians altered our timeline suggests that a race of shape-shifting reptilian aliens has influenced human history in secret. According to this idea, these beings have the ability to manipulate time or control events, causing shifts in our reality that we don't fully understand. Supporters of this theory believe that reptilians are not only controlling human leaders, but also playing a role in changing the course of history to serve their agenda. One argument for this theory is based on the belief that certain historical events seem out of place or inconsistent with what we remember. For example, some people argue that major wars, political changes, or natural disasters may have been deliberately caused or manipulated by reptilian beings to keep humanity in a state of confusion and disarray. They claim that these events are part of a larger plan to reshape the world in the reptilians' favor. Supporters also point to instances of people experiencing Mandela effects, where large groups of people remember events or details differently from what is now considered the official version of history. The theory suggests that these memory lapses are a result of reptilian interference in our timeline. They believe that the reptilians can alter key moments in time, creating alternate realities or shifting the way events unfold, which causes people to remember things differently. Another aspect of the theory involves the idea that reptilians are behind the rise of influential leaders and governments. Some claim that these aliens have been manipulating human leaders for centuries, placing them in power to further their own goals. According to this view, the reptilian influence is not only hidden, but has been actively altering our history to shape a future that benefits them. However, there is no scientific evidence to support the idea that reptilians are controlling our timeline. Most of the explanations for strange historical events or memory discrepancies can be attributed to human error, bias, or misinformation. The theory remains speculative without any verifiable proof. A theory that Jim Morrison is living in Paris suggests that the famous frontman of The Doors did not die in 1971, as the official story claims, but instead faked his death and moved to Paris to live out a quiet life. Supporters of this idea believe that Morrison, tired of the pressures of fame and his personal struggles, staged his death and left the public eye to escape the media and his hectic lifestyle. One part of the theory is based on the circumstances surrounding Morrison's death. He was found in his bathtub in Paris at the age of 27, with no autopsy performed and little official investigation into the cause of death. Some people believe that this lack of inquiry was part of the plan to cover up the truth. They argue that Morrison may have intentionally overdosed to make his death appear accidental, allowing him to vanish from the public without suspicion. Supporters also point to the fact that Morrison was known to be interested in living a more private life, especially toward the end of his career. Before his death, he had been spending more time in Paris, away from the spotlight. Some believe that he moved there permanently, continuing to live under an assumed identity. They suggest that he might have been using his time in Paris to explore other creative outlets, away from the fame he once had in America. Another part of the theory is based on the idea that Morrison's music and poetry took on a more cryptic and philosophical tone before his death, as though he was preparing for a transition into a different life. Supporters claim that his lyrics and behavior hint at a desire to escape, and that faking his death in Paris allowed him to do so. Despite these claims, there is no evidence to support the theory that Morrison is alive in Paris. The official cause of death remains heart failure, and friends and family members have confirmed his death. The theory remains speculative, relying on the idea that Morrison wanted to escape fame and live a private life. The theory that the New World Order, NWO, is real suggests that a secret group of powerful individuals or organizations is working behind the scenes to create a global government that will control all aspects of life. According to this idea, the NWO aims to consolidate power by influencing political systems, economies, and even cultures to bring about a single unified world order. Supporters of this theory argue that the push for globalization, with its emphasis on international treaties, trade agreements, and a centralization of power, is part of a larger plan by these powerful groups. They claim that influential organizations, such as the United Nations or the World Bank, are tools used by these elites to take control of global resources, policies, and institutions. These organizations, according to the theory, are just fronts for the true power behind the scenes, which includes wealthy families, multinational corporations, and international banking systems. One part of the theory suggests that the NWO uses events like wars, economic crises, and pandemics to manipulate societies and push their agenda forward. For example, some people believe that global conflicts are stirred up to weaken nations and create a climate of fear, making people more willing to accept centralization of power in exchange for security. The theory also points to the rise of surveillance and control technologies, arguing that these are tools designed to monitor and control the population, paving the way for the NWO's vision of a one-world government. Critics of the theory argue that these claims are based on speculation, and they point out that there is no solid evidence to suggest that such a coordinated effort exists. They say that global cooperation, trade agreements, and international policies can be explained by the need for nations to work together on shared challenges like climate change or security. The idea of the New World Order continues to be a topic of debate, with many seeing it as a conspiracy theory and others believing that it represents the hidden agenda of powerful elites. The theory that the Pope is actually an alien suggests that the leader of the Catholic Church is not human, but an extraterrestrial being. According to this idea, the Pope's behavior, appearance, or influence might be a cover for an alien agenda, and his true identity is hidden from the public. Supporters of this theory argue that the Pope's position as a global leader gives him access to powerful networks and allows him to shape world events in ways that might not be fully understood. One argument for this theory is based on the Pope's ability to inspire and control large groups of people. Some claim that an alien being with advanced intelligence or technology would be the perfect person to lead a global religion, influencing millions or even billions of followers. They suggest that the Pope's role as a spiritual leader, combined with his ability to unite people from all over the world, might be part of a larger plan orchestrated by extraterrestrials. Another part of the theory involves the idea that certain aspects of the Pope's appearance or behavior are unusual, which leads some to speculate that he is not fully human. Supporters point to his calm demeanor, his ability to speak multiple languages, and his seemingly otherworldly knowledge as possible signs that he is an alien. The Pope's influence over both religious and political matters is often cited as evidence of his role in shaping events on a global scale, possibly with alien intentions behind the scenes. Some also point to the Vatican's long history of secrecy and its vast collection of knowledge and artifacts. They argue that the Vatican could be hiding information about extraterrestrial life or even working with aliens, with the Pope acting as a key intermediary. This would explain why the Church has such a significant influence on world affairs, according to the theory. However, there is no credible evidence to support the claim that the Pope is an alien. The idea remains speculative, with no proof to back it up. A theory that Hollywood is run by a satanic cabal suggests that a group of powerful people in the entertainment industry are involved in dark, occult practices and use their influence to control what we see on screen. Supporters of this theory argue that the entertainment industry, with its immense power over culture, is controlled by a hidden group that uses movies, music, and television to spread satanic or immoral messages. One part of the theory involves the idea that many famous figures in Hollywood, from actors to directors, are members of secret societies with ties to occult practices. These groups are thought to use their position in the industry to subtly promote satanic beliefs, often through hidden symbols or themes in movies. For example, some point to the frequent use of imagery like the all-seeing eye, pentagrams, or references to dark rituals in films and music videos as signs of this hidden agenda. They argue that these symbols are not random, but part of a deliberate effort to influence the public, especially younger generations, in a way that aligns with their goals. Supporters of the theory also claim that the entertainment industry is used to distract people from more important issues, keeping them focused on mindless entertainment rather than critical thinking or political awareness. They believe that by controlling what we watch, the cabal keeps the public in a state of complacency, making it easier to manipulate society and push a hidden agenda. Others believe that the satanic cabal has a broader purpose: to influence global politics and society by shaping the values and behaviors of large groups of people. By using the power of Hollywood, they suggest this cabal can push certain ideologies or policies without people realizing it. They argue that the moral decay seen in modern culture is not just a result of changing social norms, but a calculated effort by those in control of the entertainment industry. While these ideas are widely considered conspiracy theories, they remain popular among those who view Hollywood as a powerful and sometimes corrupt industry. The theory that Walt Disney is cryogenically frozen suggests that the founder of Disneyland and Disney Studios did not actually die in 1966, but instead had his body preserved through cryonics, with the hope of being revived in the future. According to this idea, Disney's death was a cover-up to keep his true condition secret while he awaited a future where technology could bring him back to life. Supporters of this theory point to the fact that Disney's body was quickly embalmed and that there was little public information about his funeral arrangements. Some believe that the lack of detailed records about his burial is evidence that his death was staged or carefully controlled to hide his true fate. They argue that Disney, being a visionary who often pushed the boundaries of technology and imagination, would have been interested in trying to preserve his body with the hope of future revival. Another aspect of the theory comes from Disney's known fascination with technology and innovation. Some theorists believe that Disney's interest in futuristic concepts, such as creating an idealized futuristic city at Disneyland, might have extended to the idea of cryonics. Given his obsession with science and the possibilities of the future, it is thought that he may have planned to preserve his body, hoping that future medical advancements would allow him to return and continue his work. The theory is fueled by Disney's reputation for secrecy, as well as rumors that began circulating soon after his death. Some even claim that Disney's body was transported to a secret location, possibly underneath Disneyland or another Disney facility, where it remains frozen to this day. These rumors are often linked to the notion that Disney is waiting for a time when science will be able to revive him, allowing him to resume his creative empire. However, there is no credible evidence to support the claim that Disney is cryogenically frozen. The official account of his death states that he was cremated, and there is no verifiable information to suggest that he was preserved for future revival. A theory that the Mandela effect proves shifting timelines suggests that certain events or details from our past are different from what we remember, and that this change is due to alternate timelines or realities intersecting with our own. The Mandela effect is named after Nelson Mandela, as some people falsely remember him dying in prison in the 1980s, even though he was released in 1990 and later became President of South Africa. This kind of shared misremembering of events is the basis for the theory that our reality is shifting. Supporters of the timeline theory argue that when large groups of people remember something differently than how it actually occurred, it's evidence that timelines or realities have been altered. For example, many people remember the famous children's book character, the Berenstain Bears, being spelled as Berenstain with an E rather than Berenstain with an A. This, they say, is an example of a glitch or shift in our timeline. Another example often cited is the incorrect memory of the Monopoly Man's monocle. Many people recall him wearing one, but the character has never had a monocle. These discrepancies, according to the theory, are signs of alternate timelines where events unfolded differently, and we are occasionally shifting between them. The theory suggests that when we experience these changes, it's a sign that our reality has intersected with another version of events, or even that our timeline is being altered. Some people also argue that the Mandela effect happens because of a massive shift in consciousness or a distortion of time itself. They believe that things like changes in history or memories reflect deeper changes in the structure of reality, where our perception is not fully aligned with the timeline we exist in. Despite its appeal, the Mandela effect lacks concrete evidence and can often be explained by simple memory errors, miscommunication, or the way people collectively misremember details. Still, the theory remains popular among those who feel these shifts represent more than just coincidences. The theory that water fluoridation is a form of mind control suggests that the fluoride added to public water supplies is being used by governments or powerful organizations to manipulate the population. According to this idea, fluoride, which is often added to drinking water to help prevent tooth decay, has harmful effects on the brain, lowering intelligence or even making people more docile and easier to control. Supporters of this theory argue that it is no coincidence that fluoride is added to water systems, and they claim that it is part of a larger plan to influence the behavior of society. One argument for this theory is based on the idea that fluoride has a calming or numbing effect on the brain. Some believe that over time, exposure to fluoride in drinking water could alter people's ability to think critically or resist authority. They suggest that this effect could make people more compliant, lowering their natural resistance to government control or manipulation. In this view, fluoride acts as a tool to control the masses, making it easier for those in power to push their agenda without facing resistance. Another part of the theory focuses on the historical context of water fluoridation. Some theorists argue that the introduction of fluoride into public water systems was not just for dental health, but also part of a broader government effort to control the population. They claim that adding fluoride to water could have been a covert operation started during the mid-20th century when governments were looking for ways to influence society during times of political tension. Critics of the theory argue that the amount of fluoride used in public water is safe and approved by health experts around the world, including organizations like the World Health Organization and the Centers for Disease Control. They point to studies showing that water fluoridation is effective at preventing cavities without harmful effects on mental function. Despite these facts, the theory persists among those who believe that the government has hidden motives for introducing fluoride into the water supply. The theory that Jeffrey Epstein was murdered suggests that his death in 2019 was not a suicide, as the official story claims, but instead a deliberate act to silence him. Epstein, a financier who was facing serious charges of sex trafficking and abuse, was found dead in his prison cell while awaiting trial. The circumstances surrounding his death have led many to believe that powerful figures involved in his illegal activities had a motive to ensure he would never testify or reveal their names. Supporters of this theory point to a number of unusual factors surrounding Epstein's death. For example, the cameras in his cell were reported to have malfunctioned, and the guards who were supposed to be monitoring him fell asleep or failed to follow proper procedure. These lapses in security have led some to suspect that his death was staged to look like a suicide, while those responsible ensured the events went unrecorded. Another part of the theory involves the timing of Epstein's death. It occurred just weeks after he was arrested and began to cooperate with investigators. Some believe that Epstein was about to expose powerful individuals, including politicians, businessmen, and celebrities who were involved in his crime. The theory suggests that these individuals may have had the resources to orchestrate his death in order to prevent him from revealing their involvement. The nature of Epstein's connections and his ability to move between high-profile circles has also fueled speculation about his death. Many argue that Epstein had the kind of influence and connections that would allow him to be protected by those with significant power, making it possible for them to arrange his death without drawing attention. Despite the official ruling that Epstein died by suicide, there is no conclusive evidence to prove that he was murdered. The theory remains popular among those who view his death as suspicious and believe that his connections to powerful people played a role in silencing him. A theory that MKUltra is still happening suggests that the CIA's mind control experiments, which were officially ended in the 1970s, are continuing in secret. MKUltra was a covert project during the Cold War where the CIA conducted experiments using drugs, hypnosis, and other methods to try to control human behavior. The project was exposed in the 1970s, leading to public outrage and official investigation. But some believe the program never fully stopped and that similar experiments are still being carried out today. Supporters of this theory point to the secrecy that still surrounds government agencies and the use of technology in modern society. They argue that advances in neuroscience, artificial intelligence, and surveillance could enable the government to manipulate individuals or groups in ways that were not possible during the MKUltra era. For example, some suggest that modern mind control techniques could involve influencing people through their phones, computers, or other devices, using subtle methods like social media manipulation or tracking personal data to shape opinions and behaviors. Another part of the theory suggests that certain high-profile events, like mass shootings or controversial political actions, could be the result of mind control experiments gone wrong or intentional manipulation. Some claim that individuals who carry out these acts may have been influenced by hidden forces, including government programs designed to test mind control techniques. The theory also connects to the broader concerns about government surveillance. With the rise of digital technologies and the increased ability to monitor people's activities, some believe that governments could use this information to manipulate or control individuals on a larger scale. The idea is that MKUltra's legacy continues in more sophisticated forms, with new tools and methods that make it harder to detect or prove. However, there is no solid evidence that MKUltra is still happening today. While concerns about privacy and government surveillance are real, the theory about ongoing mind control programs remains speculative and based on mistrust of government institutions. A theory that pineal glands are gateways to other dimensions suggests that the small gland in the brain, often associated with producing melatonin, has a far more significant role. According to this idea, the pineal gland is not just responsible for regulating sleep, but is also a portal to different realities or dimensions beyond our own. Supporters of this theory argue that the pineal gland holds the key to unlocking access to alternate realms, possibly through the use of certain substances or altered states of consciousness. One part of the theory is based on the belief that the pineal gland is activated during intense spiritual experiences. Some claim that when the gland is activated, either through meditation, near-death experiences, or the use of certain psychedelic substances, it opens up access to higher states of awareness or even other dimensions. This theory connects to ancient beliefs about the pineal gland, often referred to as the third eye, which is thought to connect humans to spiritual or mystical realms. Supporters point to the fact that the pineal gland is sensitive to light, which they believe could help explain its potential role in connecting us to other dimensions. They argue that light, in its various forms, may act as a bridge between our reality and other realities, and the pineal gland acts as a receiver or transmitter of this energy. Some also claim that certain individuals who have developed advanced spiritual practices, like shamans or mystics, are able to use their pineal glands to access these other realms, seeing things that others cannot. The theory also suggests that the pineal gland may be deliberately suppressed in modern society. Some believe that chemicals in food and water, like fluoride, can calcify the pineal gland, making it harder for people to access these alternate dimensions. This idea ties into concerns about the manipulation of human consciousness, where controlling access to other dimensions would give powerful groups an advantage. However, there is no scientific evidence to support the idea that the pineal gland can act as a gateway to other dimensions. The theory remains speculative, based on mystical interpretations rather than proven facts. There's a claim that the United Nations has a secret depopulation plan, but this idea lacks solid evidence and is based on conspiracy theories. People who promote this theory often point to global policies like population control programs or climate change actions, suggesting these are part of a hidden agenda. However, the UN's actual goals are focused on improving human welfare and ensuring sustainable development. The UN works with countries to address challenges like poverty, hunger, and disease. It also promotes human rights, education, and health. One program that often gets misunderstood is family planning. The UN supports voluntary family planning, which helps people, especially women, have control over the number and timing of their children. This is seen as an important tool for improving economic conditions and reducing poverty. It's a choice, not force, and it's about giving people more options, not taking them away. People who push the depopulation idea sometimes cite past events, like population reduction strategies used in certain countries. They suggest that these are part of a wider global agenda. Yet these strategies were isolated to specific regions and were not part of UN policies. In fact, the UN emphasizes the need for responsible growth and supports initiatives that provide healthcare, clean water, and education to growing populations. Some theories also link climate change to depopulation, arguing that efforts to reduce carbon emissions or address overpopulation are designed to reduce the global population. But in reality, the UN's climate policies aim to address the environmental damage caused by pollution and protect the planet for future generations, not reduce the number of people on it. In the end, the UN's public actions and policies show no sign of a hidden agenda to reduce the world's population. What it does focus on is improving the quality of life for everyone, while balancing the needs of the planet. The idea that the rapture has already happened is a belief held by some people, but it isn't supported by mainstream Christian teachings. According to the Bible, the rapture is supposed to be a future event where believers in Christ will be taken up to heaven, leaving the rest of the world behind. This event is described in passages like 1 Thessalonians 4:16-17, where it said that those who are alive and faithful will meet Christ in the air. Some claim that the rapture has already taken place and that it happened quietly, without the dramatic signs that others expect. They argue that the signs of the end times, like wars or natural disasters, might be happening around us, but the rapture itself was missed by those not paying attention. This idea suggests that God took his faithful followers already, leaving others to deal with the aftermath of the world's troubles. However, most Christian groups do not believe the rapture has occurred yet. They point to specific signs in the Bible that have not yet come to pass. For example, they mention that the Bible speaks of a time of great tribulation before Christ's return, which hasn't fully happened yet. Events like the rise of the Antichrist and a final battle between good and evil are seen as key signs that the rapture is still in the future. The idea of the rapture is often linked to the concept of the second coming of Christ. Most Christians expect both to happen at the same time or in close sequence. They believe these events will bring about the final judgment and the ultimate fulfillment of God's plan. Those who believe the rapture has already happened point to the current state of the world, claiming that the suffering and confusion people experience now are the result of it. They see the world as a place where people must now struggle to find meaning without the direct intervention of believers who were taken. But for many, this view simply doesn't match the expectations set by biblical prophecy. The idea that the Earth is shaped like a donut is a theory that challenges the well-established scientific understanding of our planet. According to most evidence, the Earth is an oblate spheroid, meaning it is mostly spherical but slightly flattened at the poles. This has been confirmed through centuries of observations, including satellite images and space missions. The donut-shaped Earth theory suggests that our planet is hollow in the center, with a ring-like structure. This would imply a different gravity and physical laws than we experience now. Proponents of this theory often point to a variety of claims, such as the idea that Earth's gravity could work differently if the planet was shaped like a ring. However, these claims don't hold up to scientific scrutiny. The structure of Earth is well understood. Beneath the surface lies a solid crust, a molten mantle, and a dense core made of iron and nickel. Geologists study seismic waves from earthquakes to understand the layers of the Earth, and these waves wouldn't travel the same way if the Earth were hollow or shaped like a donut. Additionally, the force of gravity on Earth is consistent with the idea of a roughly spherical planet. The notion of a donut-shaped Earth also conflicts with observations from space. Astronauts who have seen the Earth from orbit describe it as a round globe, and there is no evidence to suggest any strange ring-like structures. In fact, many of the photos we have from space show a clear, curved horizon, further supporting the idea that the Earth is round. While the donut Earth theory may be an interesting idea, it doesn't match the physical evidence we have gathered. The scientific community relies on facts that come from careful observation and testing. So far, these facts point to the Earth being a roughly spherical object, not a ring. There have been claims that Britney Spears has sent coded messages through her Instagram posts. These rumors began when some of her followers noticed patterns in her posts, such as odd captions or pictures that seemed to hint at something deeper. People have speculated that Britney was trying to communicate hidden messages to her fans, particularly during the time she was under a conservatorship. Some of these posts featured cryptic phrases or seemingly random photos that didn't seem to fit a clear theme. For example, Britney sometimes shared posts about freedom, flowers, or words that appeared to reference personal struggles. Her fans began to believe that these were signals, suggesting she was trying to send messages about her situation or asking for help. Others argue that these posts were simply a form of self-expression, without any hidden. Britney is known for her active social media presence, often sharing updates on her life and thoughts. People who follow her closely may interpret her posts differently, especially when she was going through public challenges. In 2021, Britney spoke out in court about the conservatorship that controlled much of her life. This sparked a lot of attention, with many fans hoping for her release. The speculation about coded messages grew after her testimony, with some believing her Instagram posts reflected her desire for freedom. However, there is no direct evidence to confirm that Britney was deliberately sending hidden messages. It's possible that what some fans saw as coded communication were simply random posts or artful expressions. While the idea of her sharing secret signals is compelling to some, it's important to separate speculation from verified facts. At the end of the day, only Britney knows the true meaning behind her social media activity. There have been claims that Stevie Wonder isn't really blind, but these ideas are not supported by facts. Stevie Wonder was born blind. and there is no credible evidence to suggest that he can see. People who believe in this theory often point to moments in his life or performances where they think he acted as if he could see, but these are usually misunderstandings. For example, some people have pointed to Stevie Wonder's ability to play complex music or react to events around him as proof that he might not be blind. They might point to moments when he caught a falling microphone or seemed to interact with people in ways that seem too precise for someone who is blind. However, these actions do not prove that he can see. Stevie Wonder is an incredibly skilled musician, and many blind people have extraordinary abilities to sense their surroundings using other senses, like hearing and touch. Stevie himself has addressed these rumors several times. He has been open about his blindness in interviews and has shared stories from his life that explain how he has adapted to the world. He has always relied on his strong sense of hearing and his ability to navigate the world through sound. His musical talent is also a result of years of practice and a deep connection to music, which goes beyond simple visual cues. The rumors about Stevie Wonder's blindness often come from misunderstanding or misinterpretation of his actions. It's important to trust the evidence and the person's own words, rather than jump to conclusions based on isolated moments that might seem unusual. Stevie Wonder is blind, and his incredible success in music is a result of his talent, not the ability to see. The idea that the moon is an alien outpost is a theory that has been around for some time. Proponents of this theory believe that the moon is not a natural satellite, but an artificial structure built by aliens to monitor Earth or conduct other activities. Some suggest that certain features of the moon, like its size and the way it perfectly covers the sun during an eclipse, point to it being something created by an advanced civilization. One of the main arguments for this theory comes from claims that the moon's surface shows signs of artificial construction. Some people point to the moon's perfectly round shape, its unusual orbit, or the fact that it appears to have been hit by numerous meteoroids without significant damage. They argue that these features seem too perfect to be natural. Others suggest that the lack of visible impact craters on the moon's far side hints at a hidden, advanced technology designed to protect it. However, scientists widely reject this idea. The moon's characteristics, such as its orbit and the way it reflects light, are well understood through centuries of observation. The moon was formed about 4.5 billion years ago when a Mars-sized body collided with Earth, causing debris to come together to form the moon. Evidence from space missions, such as those conducted by NASA, supports this theory. Astronauts who visited the moon during the Apollo missions found no signs of alien technology or artificial structures. They brought back rock samples that scientists have studied, and these rocks have similar compositions to those found on Earth, further supporting the idea that the moon is a natural body. While the theory that the moon is an alien outpost is intriguing, there is no scientific evidence to support it. The moon, as we understand it, is a natural satellite that has been part of our solar system for billions of years. The idea that the Vatican hides ancient alien texts is a theory that suggests the Catholic Church possesses secret documents or artifacts that reveal extraterrestrial contact throughout history. Some people believe that the Vatican, with its vast collection of ancient manuscripts and relics, has knowledge of alien life, but chooses to keep it hidden from the public. The theory often points to the Vatican's extensive library, which houses millions of books and manuscripts. Some suggest that among these texts are ancient writings that document encounters with extraterrestrials or provide evidence of alien visits in the past. According to this theory, the Church might hide these texts to avoid disrupting religious beliefs or causing panic among followers. People who believe in this theory often cite stories of alien sightings or references to beings from the sky in ancient religious texts, including the Bible. However, there is no concrete evidence to support this idea. The Vatican Library is a public institution, and while access to some of its rarest texts is limited, it is not secretive about its holdings. Scholars from all over the world are allowed to study the texts and manuscripts housed there. Many of these manuscripts are related to religious, historical, and cultural topics, not extraterrestrial life. Additionally, the Catholic Church has never officially acknowledged the existence of any ancient alien texts. While it is true that the Vatican has explored the relationship between faith and science, including the search for life beyond Earth, there is no indication that it hides any information about alien encounters. The Vatican has also publicly stated that the possibility of extraterrestrial life does not contradict Catholic teaching. While the idea of secret alien texts in the Vatican is an interesting thought, it remains speculative with no substantial evidence to back it up. The Church continues to focus on its mission of faith rather than on the search for extraterrestrial life. The idea that Elvis Presley is alive is a theory that has circulated for decades. After the famous singer's death in 1977, rumors spread that he faked his death and went into hiding. Some people point to unusual sightings of someone they believe is Elvis, or claim that there are hidden messages in his music suggesting he is still alive. Supporters of this theory argue that the details surrounding Elvis's death were strange. For example, some believe that his autopsy was not properly conducted, or that he was seen in public after his death. They point to certain clues in his last interviews or music, suggesting he was trying to tell his fans that he was alive. These rumors gained traction because Elvis was such a beloved and iconic figure, making the idea of him still being around appealing to many. However, there is no reliable evidence to support the theory that Elvis is alive. His death was officially confirmed by medical professionals, and there have been no credible sightings of him since then. His funeral was widely covered by the media, and his passing was mourned by millions of people around the world. His family and friends have also confirmed his death, and there have been no credible reports of him being alive in the years since. Elvis was known to have struggled with health issues, including obesity and prescription drug use, which contributed to his death at the age of 42. The medical records and other official documents about his death are publicly available and do not support any claims that he faked it. Despite this, the theory persists in popular culture, often fueled by conspiracy theories or the longing of fans who want to believe that their idol is still with them. However, the most logical explanation is that Elvis Presley passed away in 1977, and the idea that he is alive remains just that, an unproven theory. The idea that the elite drink children's blood for a substance called adrenochrome is a conspiracy theory with no factual basis. Adrenochrome is a chemical compound that is sometimes linked to the idea of enhancing health or prolonging life. Some who believe in the theory claim that powerful figures, such as politicians or celebrities, harvest it from children by causing them fear, with the belief that it can give them special powers or youthfulness. This theory suggests that the elite are involved in a secret, horrific practice of blood drinking to gain adrenochrome, a substance supposedly created by the body in response to stress or fear. Proponents of the theory often cite various unverified and vague claims, including accusations that elite figures perform secret rituals or engage in hidden networks. However, there is no scientific or medical evidence to support the idea that adrenochrome has the effects that these theories suggest. Adrenochrome itself is a compound that can be produced in a laboratory, but its effects on the human body are minimal, and it does not have the life-altering properties often described by conspiracy theorists. There is no evidence that it is being harvested from children or used by elites in the way these theories claim. The spread of such ideas often comes from mistrust of powerful figures or institutions, but these claims are based on misinformation. Many times, these theories are used to explain complex political or social events in simple terms, even if the truth is far more complicated. People who push these theories often have no credible sources or evidence to back up their claims. The idea that elites drink children's blood for adrenochrome is rooted in fantasy and fear, not fact. It is important to rely on verified information and evidence when considering such serious matters. Without credible proof, these theories remain just that, baseless rumors. The idea that the elite drink children's blood for a substance called adrenochrome is a conspiracy theory with no factual basis. Adrenochrome is a chemical compound that is sometimes linked to the idea of enhancing health or prolonging life. Some who believe in the theory claim that powerful figures, such as politicians or celebrities, harvest it from children by causing them fear, with the belief that it can give them special powers or youthfulness. This theory suggests that the elite are involved in a secret, horrific practice of blood drinking to gain adrenochrome, a substance supposedly created by the body in response to stress or fear. Proponents of the theory often cite various unverified and vague claims, including accusations that elite figures perform secret rituals or engage in hidden networks. However, there is no scientific or medical evidence to support the idea that adrenochrome has the effects that these theories suggest. Adrenochrome itself is a compound that can be produced in a laboratory, but its effects on the human body are minimal, and it does not have the life-altering properties often described by conspiracy theorists. There is no evidence that it is being harvested from children or used by elites in the way these theories claim. The spread of such ideas often comes from mistrust of powerful figures or institutions, but these claims are based on misinformation. Many times, these theories are used to explain complex political or social events in simple terms, even if the truth is far more complicated. People who push these theories often have no credible sources or evidence to back up their claims. The idea that elites drink children's blood for adrenochrome is rooted in fantasy and fear, not fact. It is important to rely on verified information and evidence when considering such serious matters. Without credible proof, these theories remain just that, baseless rumors. The idea that the simulation glitched in 2012 is a theory based on the belief that our reality is actually a computer simulation. Some people claim that something strange or out of place happened in 2012, and they argue it was a result of a glitch in the simulation, similar to a bug in a video game. This theory often connects to other ideas, like the Mayan calendar predicting the end of the world in 2012, suggesting that the world didn't end, but instead a glitch occurred that altered our reality. People who support this theory point to certain events or changes they think are evidence of the glitch. For example, some claim that strange coincidences or odd occurrences in the years following 2012 are signs that the simulation had an error. Others refer to the Mandela effect, where large groups of people remember things differently than they actually happened. And they suggest that these shifts in collective memory are the result of a system malfunction. However, there is no scientific evidence to support the idea that our reality is a simulation, let alone that it experienced a glitch. The theory of simulation is largely philosophical, first proposed by thinkers like Nick Bostrom, but it's not something that has been proven. While advancements in technology make the idea of simulations more interesting, it remains speculative. The events people point to as evidence of a glitch, like changes in global events or cultural shifts, can often be explained by more straightforward factors like human perception, memory, or the natural progression of society. For example, the Mandela effect can be explained by the way people misremember details or the influence of shared media. While the simulation theory is an intriguing concept, the idea that a glitch occurred in 2012 lacks evidence. What some perceive as a glitch could be explained by more common factors, like the way our minds work or how information spreads in society. The idea that Tupac Shakur is alive and living in Cuba is a theory that has been around since his death in 1996. Some people believe that Tupac faked his death and escaped to Cuba to avoid the dangers of his life in the spotlight. They point to his ties with people like the late Cuban leader Fidel Castro and his lyrics, which sometimes seemed to hint at his desire to escape or dissipate. The theory gained traction after Tupac's death when no body was ever publicly displayed. Fans claimed that certain details about his death didn't add up, such as the quick funeral or the lack of clear answers about the circumstances. Some also suggested that the high-profile nature of Tupac's life, filled with controversies and conflicts, might have led him to stage his death as a way to escape his dangerous life. Those who believe in the Cuba theory argue that Tupac had the resources and connections to make such an escape. They suggest that his association with various political figures, combined with his interest in revolutionary themes, might have influenced his decision to go into hiding in Cuba. Some even claim to have seen him in Cuba in the years following his supposed death. However, there is no credible evidence to support the idea that Tupac is alive in Cuba. Investigations into his death have concluded that he was murdered in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas. His body was cremated, and no substantial evidence has ever emerged to suggest that he faked his death. Moreover, people who have investigated his death, including law enforcement and close associates, have never found proof of his survival. The theory that Tupac is in Cuba remains speculative, fueled by a combination of misinterpretation, mystery, and fans' refusal to accept his death. The most widely accepted explanation is that Tupac passed away in 1996, despite the many rumors and theories surrounding his death. The idea that the pyramids are energy transmitters is a theory that suggests the ancient Egyptian pyramids were built to harness or transmit some form of energy. Some proponents of this theory believe that the pyramids, particularly the Great Pyramid of Giza, were designed not just as tombs, but as powerful machines capable of channeling energy. Whether it be electromagnetic or some other form, people who support this theory point to the pyramid's precise alignment with the stars and its complex architecture. They argue that such an advanced structure couldn't have been built without a purpose beyond just burial. Some believe that the pyramids might have been used to tap into the Earth's natural energy, which could then be used for healing, power generation, or other mysterious purposes. Supporters also often point to claims that the pyramids seem to have special properties. For instance, some claim that objects inside the pyramids or nearby areas seem to behave strangely in certain conditions, like preserving food or acting in ways that suggest an energy field. Others point to the acoustics inside the pyramids, suggesting they might amplify or transmit sound waves in ways that suggest they had a function beyond being simple burial structures. There is no scientific evidence to support the idea that the pyramids are energy transmitters. The most accepted theory among archaeologists is that the pyramids were built as tombs for the pharaohs, intended to serve as monumental burial sites. The pyramids were also symbols of power and were aligned with the stars for religious and cultural reasons, not for any kind of energy-related function. While the idea of the pyramids being energy transmitters is an intriguing one, it remains speculative. The more widely accepted view is that the pyramids were built as part of the ancient Egyptians' religious and burial practices, not as devices designed to transmit energy. The idea that Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad agent is a theory that suggests he was working as an intelligence operative for Israel's Secret Service. According to this theory, Epstein's wealth and connections were used to gather information, manipulate powerful people, and conduct covert operations. Some people point to his relationships with high-profile figures and his involvement in international affairs as signs that he might have been working for Mossad. Supporters of this theory argue that Epstein's ability to influence powerful individuals, as well as his mysterious wealth and connections, point to a role beyond that of a financier and socialite. They suggest that he may have been used to gather compromising material on influential people, which could be used for leverage or intelligence purposes. His private island and the high-profile nature of his activities have fueled speculation that he was involved in espionage, using blackmail or other means to collect sensitive information. However, there is no concrete evidence to support the claim that Epstein was a Mossad agent. Epstein's connections to various powerful people, including politicians, businessmen, and celebrities, are well documented, but these relationships seem to be more related to his financial dealings and personal life rather than any intelligence-gathering activity. The investigation into Epstein's crimes has focused on his illegal activities, including the trafficking and abuse of minors, rather than any connection to espionage. Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency, has not publicly commented on the theory, and there is no verified information linking Epstein to the agency. While the idea of Epstein being an intelligence agent is intriguing to some, it remains speculative and unsupported by verified facts. The theory that Epstein was a Mossad agent draws on assumptions about his wealth, power, and the secretive nature of his life. But there is no solid evidence to prove this claim. The investigation into Epstein's life and crimes has focused on his criminal actions, not espionage. The idea that dinosaurs helped build ancient monuments is a theory that blends prehistoric creatures with ancient human history in a way that defies conventional understanding. The theory suggests that dinosaurs were still alive when ancient civilizations, like the Egyptians or the builders of Stonehenge, were constructing their monumental structures. According to this idea, the massive size and strength of dinosaurs would have been used to help move large stones and construct buildings. However, this theory contradicts what we know about the timeline of Earth's history. Dinosaurs went extinct about 65 million years ago, long before humans appeared on the planet. The earliest humans, known as Homo sapiens, only appeared around 200,000 years ago. The pyramids and other ancient monuments were built only a few thousand years ago, so there is no overlap in time for humans and dinosaurs to interact. In reality, the construction of ancient monuments is explained by human ingenuity and labor. The ancient Egyptians, for example, used advanced techniques to move and shape massive stones to build the pyramids. They used ramps, levers, and skilled labor to accomplish these feats. There is evidence from archaeological studies showing how these methods worked, with no need for dinosaurs or any other prehistoric creatures. Some may argue that this theory is based on a misunderstanding or misinterpretation of ancient myths, pop culture references, or purely fictional stories. For example, in certain works of fiction, dinosaurs and humans might live together, but there is no scientific evidence to suggest that this was ever the case in real life. While the idea of dinosaurs helping to build ancient monuments might sound interesting, it lacks any basis in scientific fact. The construction of ancient monuments was a remarkable achievement of human engineering, not the result of dinosaurs assisting with the work. The idea that giants once ruled Earth is a theory based on ancient myths and stories found in many cultures. According to this theory, giants were once real beings, much larger than humans, and they played a significant role in history. Supporters of this theory point to references to giants in religious texts like the Bible and stories from other cultures, such as the giants in Greek mythology or the Norse legends. In the Bible, there is mention of the Nephilim, a group of beings described as the offspring of angels and humans. Some people believe that these beings were giants and that they lived in ancient times, having great power and influence. Similar stories of giants can be found in various ancient cultures, from the giants of Greek mythology to the Jotnar in Norse myths. Those who support the theory that giants once lived on Earth often point to ancient ruins or large stone structures that they believe could only have been built by beings of extraordinary size and strength. They argue that these structures, such as the pyramids or megalithic sites like Stonehenge, might have been created by giants rather than humans because of their massive scale and precision. However, there is no scientific evidence to support the idea that giants ever existed. Fossils of prehistoric creatures and early humans show no signs of beings of gigantic proportions. The human skeleton has remained relatively the same size over tens of thousands of years. Archaeologists and historians agree that ancient monuments were built by skilled humans using tools, ingenuity, and hard labor, not by giant beings. The idea of giants ruling Earth remains largely a mythological concept, rooted in stories passed down through generations. While giants make for fascinating tales, there is no factual evidence to suggest they were ever real. The belief in giants is based more on cultural stories and legends than on historical or scientific evidence.